Yeah, it says preparing for live stream the meeting.
Okay,
You
cool.
record the other part?
I press record. I did that on Zoom. Yeah. All right.
All righty. So we up and running.
I'm up and running, bro.
Okay, good, man. So, we've been, like I said, covering the topic of abiding in Christ, but coming from the perspective of a description, not just. You got a question, or you gonna make something going on?
No, I'm just trying to make sure it's showing the classroom and not you.
Okay. All right. I'll keep on talking while you're working on it. Is that cool?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Okay. So we've been pulling out the scriptures that help us to describe what it is. I said painting the picture of what it is to abide in Christ. In other words, not just having the scriptures, knowing, quoting the scriptures, but actually embodying the scriptures to become the scriptures. And we've gone through the long list of the type of character that Christ produces in a man when he's abiding in you, right? Talked about the stern, talked about the uncompromising and things like that. Spoke of the let's say the regime that a man that's abiding in Christ has himself under, and the description that stands out was rigorously self-disciplined and severely moral. That's talking about our behavior and what the yoke that when it says self-discipline, that's talking about the yoke that you put yourself under. That's talking about after having come through the process that all you brothers are going through, that's in you, and you maintain that. It's like you'll know a military cat. If you ever, bunked or roomed, or I did some jobs with some military people out here, and you always know military, because they get out of bed, they do their thing, man. They make that bed up so that a coin could pop up on it when you knock. The covers and everything be tight. You see how they set their shoes in the room. You see how they iron their clothes. In other words, that when let's say that person entered into the military as a new recruit, he might have possessed some of those qualities. Most of the time they don't. And everything that they get, all the way down to how they talk, all the way down to how they express their perspective, it's all what they got from the military, because most things that we acquire them as we move on through this life. None of us are, quote, autonomous of having framed and established or disciplined ourselves. So once you get these qualities become in you, they become a permanent part of it. And listen, and this is how you know if somebody falls away, brother. That's what it tells you that in the book of John, 1 John or 1 or 2 John, that if you, in other words, I'm alluding to the point that when people leave the truth after having been under, let's say, a regimen where, like all things, like especially humility, that's a quality of Christ that's imposed on us. Nobody can come up and create in themselves a humble person, because humility, there's an external source, there's an external stimulus that you're being humble to, and without that, there's no need to be humble. You don't be humble to yourself. Being humble to yourself is being weak. That means you're giving in to your impulses. I'm saying all this to say that what we've gone through in abiding in Christ is talking about the qualities and the characteristics, the traits that are instilled in us over a period of time. If a person over another period of time loses that means it wasn't instilled in them. It's indicative of the person that's leaving. When the person leaves, that's why the verse says they left from among us because they were not of us. But if they were of us, then they would have stayed. And guess what that is? That verse is describing, when you read it, what the dynamic of a man among you that is antichrist. That's what we went over, how to abide in Christ, right? That means he's against all of those principles. And the minute that person has to, quote, operate away from that control factor, the minute a person that's come up in this word have to operate or is in a position where he must operate in and of itself, he has to go on autopilot. I always describe it as autopilot because now you're responsible for yourself and there's no one there. What's up?
Hey, Kyle, I'm sorry. There is a delay.
Okay.
There is a delay on what you're speaking.
So I look like a Chinese movie right now?
Yes, you do. You actually do, sir.
All right, brother.
Like you killed my brother.
You want me to call back? I can call back. I can hang
yes, yes, you should call back.
I'm gonna do that.
Hold on one second, Coco.
All right.
Wait, why is it on YouTube? Okay, hold on. Why is it on the YouTube screen? This shouldn't even be. Well, hold on a second. We shouldn't be on the YouTube screen. Hold on one second, Coco.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for your word.
It shouldn't even be on the YouTube screen. That's the problem. It should be on the Zoom screen. There we go. Can you communicate?
Yes, I can. What's happening?
That's
Okay.
I'm normal now.
No, we're good. It was.
Did I come back to America?
No, you're back to America, man. You came out of the Mandarin Temple lot. You're good now.
The Mandarin Shaolin.
Yeah. You're good. You're good.
I was learning Tiger Paw.
There's automatic delay while it's on YouTube.
Okay, I got you.
So you gotta go out of the YouTube screen and then just have it on. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So what we're going to pick up now, right after having gotten the scriptures that help us to understand, number one, the character that abiding in Christ imposes on us, but we adopt it and we integrate it and we become it. Afterward, or because we've become that character, there is a self-discipline. There's a level of morality that in our conduct and in our words and in our service that we impose on ourselves, right? That we keep ourselves under. But then it shows you that third stage was our presentation. One of the things was that to be austere was to be simple in the sense of not overly decorated, right? It was without excess, without luxury, without ease. Now, and that was important because, Israel, and I say this, I mean, we're all guilty of getting caught up into that phase, especially around Passover time, where one would think if you went to the Passover, one would think that it was about luxury, or I say luxury excess. In other words, how the garments have to be better than the previous year. You understand? And that's not wrong. I'm just trying to give you an example of, imagine, let me say this. There are congregations that is their premise. That is the most important aspect of their operation. Their presentation of masses of people and how decorated and how ornamented they are. But that's exactly opposite to what Christ is, according to the verses, the scripture that we've been going over so far under this title. So you guys, you have them, I believe, on your YouTube library, on your channel, where you can refer to all those previous classes. So today, the question is, why is it so important that we understand what it is to abide in Christ? We know that it's so that we could be productive. That was the whole reason. We know that it's so that we could become a vessel through whom the knowledge is given to someone else, and that the investment that we exercise, that we pour into them, results in them remaining, or a higher probability of them remaining. But what's all that about? It's all really about so that you can serve. All of the prep, what you guys are going through, all of the preparation that you're undergoing is seeing to it that by the time you are of a mature age, and that means not in the years, but in the time, from the time you walked into the truth up until any given time, your maturity, your ability to properly assess. The Bible, when it refers to assessing, it says discern, to properly discern. Your ability to hear something and counsel properly. Your ability to have a conversation out and about in life and not always have to be over or unnecessarily dogmatic with the Bible. Can you teach somebody? Can you drop the scriptures? Can you interject that biblical aspect in a normal secular conversation with somebody? Do you know how to drop things without within the conversation that you're having, let's say, with somebody in the world, and they don't even know that's what you're doing because it's so properly executed, it's so properly seasoned that you're just spicing up the conversation here and there to finally get them to want more, to ask, where does it say that? For real? Because all of those and more are the signs of maturity, no matter how much time, because that's what this experience is all about. This experience is to breed out of us what we are before we come into the truth. And that's impulsive creatures given to our own desires. Impulsive creatures, right, whose sole objective is to what? Is to satiate one's desires, to satisfy one's desires. That is what's being extracted. And in exchange, what is being infused in us is the acceptance, first the recognition, the acceptance, and then the embracing of the fact that until Christ comes back or until we get called home, we are nothing more than servants. And the servants the level where you brothers are right now is with the intention of one day being in a war and Shamshuan and Dawiyat's position. That's it. Your whole life. That's why Christ died for us. You understand? He died for us so that what? That we would become his servants that would live, right? That would live for him, and through our servitude, his spirit lives in us. His spirit lives in us if we ain't gonna serve. But we get the what? We get the blessing and the honor and the privilege of having the Most High put his spirit in us and operate through us. Or we don't. But while we're in this truth, that's what we're being groomed for. That's what we're being prepared for. We're being prepared to serve. And in order to serve and have your servitude, let's say, properly trained or properly introduced and demonstrated to you, you have the generations before you. And then you have the works of the generation before you for you to be able to measure what? This turned out to be an example that I can pattern myself after. And the Most High is going to teach you, brothers. When I say teaching, meaning through experiences, through circumstances, through things that a war or no other men have control over, he's going to teach you things with the intention of adding on to whatever he has a war doing. You have to come behind it and add to it and make it better. You're not supposed to come behind and lose. That's what the word meant when it says in John 5:15 and 16, and that you bring forth much fruit and that your fruit remain. We ain't supposed to be losing. So let's deal with that. This is what I want to do. I want to get a good example of Christ's, the type of servant that he was, because this is the example that he lays down. It's in John chapter 13. St. John chapter 13, and we're actually going to start off at verse 1. 1 through 15. Might be a little bit more. You there, Dawiyat?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Absent.
St. John chapter 13 and start off at verse 1.
Come. St. John chapter 13.
I want you to read normal. We're not on the street. If we were on the street and your voice had to be projecting, that's how you would read. But I want you to read at a type of tone that I'm talking at. And I want you to follow what's being said. That means the word after word. While I'm speaking, you should be reading like on the others I've taught you, reading ahead so you can get a sense of what's being said, so you can know what words to emphasize and how your vocal inflection should be. In other words, we're not just reading, we're talking to somebody by way of the scriptures. All right? Go ahead and we start off at verse 1.
St. John chapter 13 and verse 1. Now before the feast of the Passover, when Yahushua knew that his hour was come that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world. He loved them unto the end.
Now, I'm going to Yatazar's hand. I'm going to have him take over the thing, but I want you to pay attention. Because I'm going to Yatazar. We're in St. John chapter 13 and verse 1. And I was speaking to my warla concerning the type of reading that we're going to strive to do. Like if we were out on the street and you were reading for a street teacher, then yes, I'm going to do an example. You would be reading somewhat like this. Now, before the feast of the Passover, when Yahushua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. And even now, do you see how the point, the message that was expressed in that verse was fluent? That means you have to take all the time. While Amayetazar had a good format where he was explaining while the teacher is teaching, you're supposed to be reading ahead so that you can get a sense of what that verse is saying, so that when it's time for you to read, you're reading it in the way that it needs to be read to be understood, and it doesn't come across as so broken. So from this point forward, Amayetazar is going to be showing you that. Verse 1, Amayetazar, St. John chapter 13.
Yeah, just touching on that, I mentioned about how to read maybe about a year ago,
Right.
and I think this is what all brothers, should be striving to do, and not just in the reading aspect. And we have to adopt the mindset of, constantly striving to improve in every aspect of our lives. We talk about being end samples for one another. We have to be looking at what other brothers are doing and identifying, positive traits, effective characteristics, and then trying to, learn them and adopting them ourselves, whether it be going to that brother and asking that brother, oh, how did you do that? It could be, when you guys, had the mall, you might have seen a brother hitting his totals, humble yourself, go to that brother, ask for advice, where do you put your mind? What are the thoughts that you think? What is it that you see in the people, or what do you do, to be so effective? Same way, with the reading, I'm not saying I'm the best reader, but like I said, hearing, the fluidity, paying attention. Like I didn't leave it for you guys to try and identify. I told you, how to do it, and I expected you guys then to go away and to follow that counsel, and then to incorporate that into your own reading style. So the fact that, over a year later, you guys are still reading in the same way, that's extremely disappointing, because it's showing, a lack of growth in that area. And as we were saying, the Most High constantly wants more out of us. And that's one thing that everyone needs to understand. The Most High truly wants more. in every aspect. You have to drill that into your mind, that the Most High just wants more out of me every day, in every aspect, not just in one thing. And once you can understand that, then that's when you adopt that mindset where you're constantly pushing yourself. You're hardening yourself. You create good habits. You're constantly asking yourself, what can I do better in my life? What new habits can I form? That's how you overcome, the sloth, the procrastination, whatever it is that you're going for, and that's how you strive for perfection, because you've trained your mind to know that I just got to give more, and so now, like I said, you're introspecting all the time. You're constantly you're up at the end of the day. The scriptures talk about reposing with the Spirit. You're going away and you're asking yourself, okay, what could I have done better today? And you're replaying your whole day. You guys have the moving company. You're going to go home at the end of the day and you're going to ask yourself, okay, what could I have done better in that move? What did I do wrong? Towards the brothers or whatever. And once you adopt that habit, that's when you start seeing growth. It's the same way with the reading. Now, Carl was just mentioned to you about the reading. You need to go away now after class and then reflect on that. Okay, where am I? How is my reading? How different is it to Amiyatazar's and the way Carl is reading? And then how can I improve it? And then every day you're doing that, and then that's how you improve. Right. This is the mindset everyone's got to have, and once you adopt that, then that's how the quality in Israel continuously improves. But at the moment, brothers just accept, okay, it is what it is. I am the way that I am, and then they're either waiting for the elder to now, chastise them or push them. But then what's happening is when the elder does do that, elder gets called a tyrant. Then they start complaining that that the elders wanting more. Then do it yourself. Then push yourself. I was always waiting for Carl Cobb to come and blaze me up. Once I got a gist of the dynamic, once I got a gist, okay, cool. Carl Cobb's gonna be pushing for me. He's gonna be looking for stuff. He's gonna be looking for areas, to work on me. And I just start working on myself. I didn't wait for him to start pointing out stuff all the time. Because that's where the maturity in the Spirit comes in. That you no longer need, someone to be telling you what to do. You're doing it yourself. So that's something you've got to adopt. Always looking to be more efficient. Always looking to be better. Always looking for refinement. When the scriptures talk about the Most High, purging the weaknesses and the negative out of us. Start doing it yourself.
Go ahead.
Okay. Verse 1. John 13, verse 1. Now, before the feast of the Passover, when Yahushua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end.
Right. Go ahead now. See, and that's what. Now, let me say this once again. If we was out on the street or in a venue, let's say we're inside and we're on a stage that's a great distance from the first row of the audience, then you would read the same way. He can't give you an example because he'd be waking up his daughter and everything else. But in other words, what that shows out also is that there's a level of consciousness. You're conscious and aware of, number one, the circumstance that you're in. You're conscious of the venue, and so you're meeting out now what has to be given for the platform that you're in at the time. It's not just this one blanket way of doing things. It's not just this one blanket way of reading. There's not just this one blanket way of counseling. There's not just this one blanket way of chastising. So go ahead, Amayetazah, verse 2. What we're dealing with, we've come beyond the standard. I shouldn't say the standard, but the foundation of abiding in Christ was learning of his character, learning the type of let's say system, discipline that he had himself under, and then also how all that transited into his presentation, what he showed the world of himself. In other words, I was showing him all of that is just to make us to craft in us and understanding that we're servants. If we don't abide in Christ, we can't be used. So now this chapter here on the Yetazah is designed to show us to what degree Christ went, how far did Christ go to make a conscious effort to show us an example of the mentality, not what we're supposed to do, but the spirit in which we do it, the mindset in which we do it. Because that's we can't just be doing stuff, no matter how good it is. In what spirit are we? Are we in the spirit of service? Are we in the spirit of love? Are we in the spirit of what? Or even the term when someone reluctance, when someone is doing something, but they would prefer to not have to do it. That's reluctance, right? That's unwillingness. All of those things don't accompany servitude. So I was saying, the Most High, he introduces this to us so that we can accept it, right? We recognize that, oh, this is a life of service. Then we what? We accept that that's what it is. Because some people, shit, this is what I'm going to be doing. I mean, my life ain't going to be just about me being able to do what I want to do. I mean, I'm always going to have to put other people first. They recognize it, but they don't be about it. So the first thing you got to do is recognize it. And that's our responsibility. What? The teachers to bring that to your attention. Then you got to have gone through the phase by the teachers also to have taught you so much that not only do you see it, now you what? Now you accept it. Acceptance is, okay, that's definitely what this is about. I see it. Yep. Then the next stage is to embrace it. That means everything you do from the moment that you recognize it, everything you do from the moment that you accept it is designed to what? To inculcate servitude in you. That means you're making a conscious and aggressive and consistent effort to transform yourself from being what you were in the world to a servant of the Most High, whose only objective is to do the will of the Lord. Read on down, Amiyatazah. That's what this chapter is going to show us.
And just so you know, while Kakab was talking there, I've just read up to verse 10, and I've read each verse over and over again, maybe like 2 or 3 times to get the understanding of each verse, so to know what words needs to be stressed. Obviously, there are commas in place. Some need to be ignored so that you can just flow. There are sometimes there are areas where there aren't commas, where you need to pause and then emphasize it. This is because I'm listening with my ears. I'm listening to Carl Cobb speaking with my ears, so I'm still understanding what he's saying, but I'm reading with my eyes. So yeah, I'm multitasking. And so it's not like, because I'm reading ahead, I'm not paying attention to what's being said to me. No, I can repeat everything what he just said to you. But so that's why you got to be sharp. Your mind's got to be sharp, and you got to be locked in the spirit.
You said it's sharp. You got to be awake and constantly like pending.
Yeah.
And I remember, like I said, well, I was a reader for everybody that ever, all of my elders, because they used to understand. They used to love the way I accommodated what they were saying. When they paused, I paused, but I stayed where I was. I would listen to them, because sometimes they would talk and I'd be, I put my thumb there and have to start going and getting other verses. Because that's what they expected of me. Not why? To show me you're awake. Now, within this verse, Kawakab, I was making another point. You are an armor bearer, right? But then you're supposed to go to that point that I'm making, while still not forgetting where I am. Anyway, continue on, Yetazah.
John chapter 13, verse 2. And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Yahushua, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he was come from the Most High, and went to the Most High, he riseth from supper, and laid aside his garments, and took a towel, and girded himself.
Now stop right here. Well, actually, I want you to read all the way down to verse 5. Just read verse 4 and 5 again.
John chapter 13.
Read verses 4 through 6. And then we're going to come back and start off at 4. Go ahead.
Okay, verse 4. He riseth from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter saith unto him, Lord, dost thou wash my feet?
Now stop right there. Christ's servitude was so humble that it was shocking. Now, why do I say that? Because Peter, the top disciple, is like, what are you doing washing? You gonna wash my feet? He couldn't believe it. But if that's what he couldn't believe, then that means the more subtle move went right over his head. Now, I'm gonna tell you what I mean when I say the more subtle move, because it's the spirit in which we have to operate. It's called transparency. It's called being an open book. More people have been reached behind me being an open book and putting my little personal life and my little hardships out there. And people have gotten in touch with me like, man, shit, I would have never thought that you was a foster kid. It'd be that one thing that they heard. I done dropped all the scriptures on yet, and all they caught was, I won't say all they caught, but what stood out to that person was something personal.
Yeah.
And it was that I took what I was and I made myself naked before them. I want you to read verse 4. Watch this, because this is what Yahushua did.
Verse 4. He riseth from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself.
That means he took off his clothes and put them to the side and then took a towel and wrapped himself up with it. But that's a servant. That's how you go back and you watch them old Roman movies, watch them old ancient movies where you see the servants around the palace, the cupbearers, or how they walking around with the platter, and the aristocrat, the rich person, the Caesar, whoever he is walking around and he's drinking and he just knows, listen, he knows that the guy's going to be it. He just, and the guy takes it and puts on and keeps on following. That's how we're supposed to be. So here, Christ is what? What is him this girl? Yeah, okay, yeah, he's getting ready to get wet. But it wasn't about that. It was about what? He's sitting there naked before them. When I say naked, meaning transparent, Now, when you read the end of chapter 53, the last two verses in Isaiah 53 and the first two verses in Isaiah 50, the last two verses, scratch that, in Isaiah 52. And the first two verses, we're going to go there, I'm going to show you why Christ taking his clothes off was a big deal. Because you read it, you read right over it. But when we go there, I go to Isaiah chapter 52 and start off with the last two verses of 52 and read on down into chapter 53.
Isaiah 52 and verse 14.
No, Isaiah, it's 52, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. So you're gonna have verse 14 and 15.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read.
Isaiah 52 and verse 14. As many were astonished at thee.
You know
his
what?
visage.
Read above that.
Verse 13.
Yeah.
Isaiah 52 verse 13. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently.
So this is clearly talking about Christ, the Most High servant. My servant shall deal prudently means wisely, right? Knowing the right thing and how to be. Go ahead.
He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. As many were astonished at thee. His visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men.
The term visage means his face, and his form is referring to his body. It says marred. Amayatazah, let's go on and do the whole nine. Look up the definition of marred and put it up there. Yes, Elisha.
Impair the appearance of, disfigured.
See, hold up. You reading too fast, bro. You got this is the definition. No, I'm saying that so that what? Because it can see you. It's good. You already own it.
He got that quick.
That's exactly what I wanted. Now, what was the first word? Yatazai, you get yours and put it on the screen still. Go ahead, Elisha.
Impair the appearance of.
Listen up, to mar. Now that is the verb, to mar. That means to what? To impair the appearance of. That means to do something to make it not come across like it was intended to be. To mar. Like somebody go and deface the Mona Lisa up in a museum, draw a mustache and a goatee on her or something like that. Go ahead.
Another definition: to injure.
No. You read definition number one, but you only read the first element. Read the first element again.
Impair the appearance of.
So that's the verb. That means if you're marring somebody, you are impairing the appearance of them. Go ahead.
Disfigure.
To disfigure, right? So it's when he says his face, his visage was marred, brother, Christ was disfigured. People don't know that. His body was disfigured. There are certain records that have him described as a short, hunchbacked man.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
It's in the caves. It's in the catacombs in Rome. They had a picture of Christ in the catacombs as a hunchback.
Yeah, man. And so this is showing you how his visage was marred. Now, remember, don't lose track of why we're here. We're here because if you were disfigured, if you had a third nipple, would you ever pull your shirt off at the beach? You know what I'm saying? You got a third nipple, or you done been in a motorcycle accident and got a big old burn, and they done took meat off your butt and put it on your chest, and so now part of your chest look like a man chest, and the other part look like a booty, right? What, you gonna take your shirt off? Hell no. I'm just saying, you one of them dudes back in the shower with a stack of nickels down there, brother? You know, that's the guy, these be the guys at the football practice that they go in the shower at home.
Hey, they shower in gym shorts.
Exactly, for real. All of us that play football and sports, we know there's always that nigga with the stack of pennies down there, brother. On a cold day, hell. So now I'm trying to show you. Now it might be humorous, but I'm just trying to relate to the fact that how we all would, if we had a defect, we would do all in the world to keep that a secret.
Oh,
we wouldn't be as transparent about the uncomely aspect of ourselves. That's why it's important on what Christ was doing when he disrobed himself. Yeah, he was getting ready to wash some feet, but you ain't got the women. You know what I mean? You don't have to get naked. And then you can imagine the apostles seeing his body probably when their life was the first time. I don't know. Damn. Continue, Eliashai. Now, the first one is the one that cuts it. That's it. But what does it say on the next one?
Impair the quality of.
To impair the quality. So in this instance, let's say the quality is in reference to beauty. The quality is in reference to comeliness or being handsome. And so Christ was marred. But now when we get to chapter 53, it's going to show you to what degree was he marred. Like nobody want to be walking down and you just go back to high school. You got the brother there with one leg, his normal leg, and the other leg come up to his knee, right? The nigga got a shoe that's got about 13 inches of extra rubber on the sole, right? You got and them those type of brothers or sisters, they hung out with each other because the normal cast, in other words, captain of the football team wasn't going to be seen roll with that dude. This is real life. People don't want to be seen with those type of oddities, human oddities and anomalies. And so, is there more on that, Eliashai?
Wow.
Okay, that's good. Now let's go to the one that Amayatazar shared with us. It says, mar, to injure by cutting off a part, or by wounding and making defective, as to mar a tree by incision. Now, in this thing, it's talking about a tree, but we're talking about the human face and the human form, the human body, in other words. Then he gives you an example, right? I pray you, mar no more trees by writing songs in their barks, right? But then you go down to number 2, it says to injure, to hurt, to impair the strength or purity of. And
Purity. Purity.
Purity, thank you. Purity of. Number 3, to injure or to injure, to diminish, to interrupt. Number 4, to injure, to deform, to disfigure. Now this is what it's talking about. So Christ was what? Let's go back. Thank you. You done with that. Let's go back and read verse Isaiah 52 and verse 14 again.
Isaiah 52 and verse 14. As many were astonished at thee.
Now, when you say astonished, that means when they saw him for the first time. Now, when can we imagine that that people were astonished at him? I can tell you one. When John was there baptizing people in the Jordan River, and out of nowhere, he said, behold. The first thing he did was call everybody's attention away from himself and to this one man whom he had never seen himself. But he received a sign from the Most High, and that sign was he saw a man, and he saw the Spirit of the Most High descending on that man. And the Most High had told John in his mind, he said, upon whom you see the Spirit descend, the same is he. So when he saw that, he had never seen Yahushua in his life, and said, behold, the Lamb of the world, the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. So when everybody looked, you can imagine, that's what means it's astounding. They're like, him? That? Because he didn't look like any savior. He didn't look like anyone that could deliver. Hell, he clearly couldn't deliver himself from whatever it was that happened to him. This is how this is how our people think. We act like we're different people than we were. We're lesser stature. We don't have that great capacity that we used to in the spirit. But we're those same people. We just say and think everything now in English or Spanish or Portuguese or French or all the language that we've been conquered in. But we're those same people. We're those same people that look at you and we see somebody look funny and we wouldn't have to say nothing. I'm a world member. I just look at my boy funny. He look back at me. We all start laughing. That's who we were. So he says, as many as astonished at him. Go ahead, and he's going to tell you what is it that's astonishing about Christ. Go ahead.
His visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men.
See that? That means more than this. That means any human form. That's the last thing you would think. Him, the Savior? But listen to what the Most High would have people drawn to him for. He literally probably came out looking like they say only a mother could love. Let's be real. That's my baby, right? And you got something today. The Negro mother ain't having it. I don't give a damn if that thing did come out of me. If it don't look normal, that thing is getting left in a bin or put up for adoption. And that's if it make it through the abortion contemplation. Go ahead, Amiyatazar. Verse
15. So shall he sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him. For that which had not been told them shall they see, and that which they had not heard shall they consider.
And that's talking about the truth of the Bible, the truth of who Yahushua is coming to save, y'all, the truth of the nation that he come from. See, people don't get it. Why did the Most High do that to Christ? Because Christ was here to embody everything ugly about Israel. Remember, Christ was that meat and that flesh whom the Most High was going to take his wrath out on, so that what? So that we could be adopted back as sons and daughters. So it couldn't just be a sinful piece of meat. It had to live a perfect life, but it also had to be ugly for the sin that it represented. It had to be that what? Visually distasteful to view, because that's what sin is. That's what we were. And the Most High, it'll tell you in the rest of chapter 53 that that's what he was doing. He was taking the wrath of his wrath against Israel out on that body with the intention of that being the price to bring us back to it. I'm a Yetazah, jump on down to 53, chapter 53 and verse 1. We're only going as far as 2 because my point that I want to make is in verse 2. Go ahead.
Chapter 53. As a matter of fact, I got exercise for you. As Carl Cobb is talking, do what I want you to do, to be reading ahead, right? Like I do, and then see how, and then in your mind, read it out in your mind, and how you would read it out if you are reading, and then listen to how I read it, and then see if you would have read it the same way, if you would have stressed the same words, if you would have paused at the same places, okay? And obviously, then if it's not, then obviously you know what to work on. So that's something you can be working on during class, okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, go ahead. Isaiah 53 and verse 1.
Isaiah 53 verse 1. Who have believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed?
Go ahead.
For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant,
Now
and as a root.
This is talking to Christ. When it says a tender plant, it's speaking of him and what his presence among us represented. We're this barren field, we're this desert land, and all of a sudden, this tender plant. I've seen that before. Ariella and myself and Mashaba. No, at this time it wasn't Mashaba. I don't know if Mashaba. Yeah, he was with us. It was Aharon, Ariella, and myself, and I think Mashaba was with us. But we were in the desert of New Mexico, taking pictures. Literally nothing but desert, and all of a sudden we took a picture of it. I don't know where that thing went. There was a little vine coming up and a little bitty watermelon in the middle of nowhere in the desert on the Yatazar. It was the most amazing thing. Of course, we took pictures from every angle. We left it there, like we were holding it and stuff like that. It was the most amazing thing because all you saw was barren desert, rocks. The last thing you would expect to see, you saw, of course, desert shrubbery. The last thing you would have expected to see is a vine coming from the ground, not from a patch, just from the ground, and a watermelon on the end of it. But that's what this is talking about. It's talking about that life that Christ represented among this nation who was continually covered in the shadow of death. Why do I say that? Because at the time of Christ, the kingdom of Judah was in what? A 500-year dynamic of having been continually militarily occupied. From the time of the Babylonians when we were exiled to the time of the Persians when we were allowed to come back but had Persian governors set up over us. Jerusalem became a satrap of the Persian Empire. They didn't use the term provinces. They used the term satrap. And the person over it was not the governor, it was the satrapy. So from then going from being a Persian satrap to a Greek province, a Greek kingdom, and then being in the midst of a tug of war between the Ptolemaic dynasty of Egypt and the Seleucid dynasty of Syria. And then come the Romans, and then come Christ. And that's what he represented, that glimmer of life, that hope, a tender plant. Read it again. I'm going to get this out, verse 2.
Isaiah 53 and verse 2. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground.
Go ahead.
He have no form nor comeliness.
Listen to this. When it says he have no form, that means he didn't have a decent shape. Comeliness is beauty. He had no decent shape or comeliness or beauty. Go ahead.
He have no form nor comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire.
See that? There's no beauty. There's nothing attractive. This is nothing that a person would want to be with him, that a person would want to be attracted to him, that we should desire him. Go ahead.
He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him.
It's as though talking about the nation. It's not talking about the 12 apostles and those that would follow. It's talking about the greater part of the nation. It was as if he didn't even exist. And you know that's the truth, because who could just be a part of a 5,000 man multitude, not counting women and children, and someone take up a couple of loaves of bread and 6 fishes or 3 fishes, however many it was, and feed the whole multitude, and then there'd be pieces left over. How could you be a part of that meal and not follow that man? And then he did it again on another occasion where it was 3,000 men, not counting women and children. How could you have been there? How could you have been in the community in the presence and standing around grieving when he goes into the tomb of Lazarus, who's been dead for a while, and walks out with him? How could you not follow him? Think about that. This is what happened. This is the life that Christ led. How could you have seen demons cast out of a person that said, we are legion, for we are many, and then thrown them into a herd of swine, and the swine go crazy and run off a cliff, and you not follow that man? You know what I mean, Ak? All the things that they saw him doing, Ak, and at the end of his death, you go and you read the book of Acts, there was no more than about 120 people that was with him when he died. When he ascended, he came back, there was no more than 120 people. You would have thought he would, but that's what it's showing you. So he was completely, on the outside, he was that rejectable. Now, go back to John 13 and read verse 4 again, Amayatazar.
John chapter 13 and verse 4. He riseth from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself.
So can you imagine that? Imagine, listen, not gonna go this far, but just so that you can understand, imagine that little monster in the movie 300.
That's what I'm.
Imagine that.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Go ahead, say it. I'll bring it out.
That's what I think about every time I think about Christ.
You know what I'm saying?
300. And it made me.
Who's that speaking?
Nagaha.
Oh, hey, Shalom, Nagaha. What's up, brother?
Hey, Shalom.
Hey, listen, you locked in, because that's not who I think about for fear of being struck down for going
right.
to
I'm saying literally, but
no, I know that's why you was hesitant. You got the same,
right.
You got the same thought, but you're still trying to check it, just like me too.
It made me question.
Go ahead.
It made me question what I consider what love, my consideration of what love actually is, and how judgmental I may actually be.
And listen,
but I follow a man like that. Like
exactly.
Shortcoming, you know what I'm
saying? Exactly. But see now, what does this represent? This is our example. This represents if I'm now, and okay, let me not preempt the message. So first thing you're getting is what? Transparency. He's showing them what he really is in this life. But we don't know that Most High sent him in the form that Israel was in the Most High's eyes. And the Lord said that in Jeremiah. He said, I planted thee a noble tree. How art thou become the vine of a degenerate plant? You done morph. You're a degenerate. You don't even know. When I planted you, you were noble and holy and upright. Look at you now. So Christ wasn't just sent here to be scourged like we saw in that movie, the Passion. That happened. He was sent to appear in the form that the Most High saw us as. Then he had to take that ugly form and live a perfect, beautiful life in the eyes of the Most High. Now you understand, or maybe you don't, but I'll call to your attention, why it was such a big deal when the Most High transfigured Christ in front of James, John, and Peter, so that he could show them what Christ really was to him. This wasn't even about Christ. This was about the Most High giving them the true perspective. And what did he say? He said, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear thou him. That's how you know. So they got to see, oh, that's what he really like. But what was he here to do? He was here to serve. So the first thing he's doing is showing us we got to be transparent with one another. These are the only practices that the Most High in Christ honor, so that he can infuse himself in us. And that's why, what is this showing us? This is showing us humility, because nobody wants to what? It to be under the microscope, to have all of our imperfections and defects scrutinized. But you can't serve until you do. Why? Because that has to happen in order for you to be reconfigured into a proper servant. You have to be scrutinized. Your defects have to be seen, because Christ is going to make them. He's going to make those defects. He's going to take those defects and bring them down to a minimum and make them what? Make them virtue, make them strengths. But for us who's running around here hiding them, and we're prideful, and we're fearful, all of these things, through whom or these elements with which the Most High cannot work, the Most High will not live with your fear inside you, the Most High will not coexist with your doubt, the Most High in Christ will not roommate with your pride, with your envy, with your sloth. That's our bodies. Whatever. Do you remember knock out what that little nigga name was? Sophocles or some shit like that?
I remember his name. I just
Yeah.
remember
Well, listen. Who need a name when all you gotta do is describe him and everybody know what you're talking about, right? Sophocles or something like, the Greeks was always Cles, Sophocles, Mr. Cles, Aristides, and all that stuff. Point is, in other words, that's really us. That's us. All balled up and ugly, y'all. And so when we come, you have to go ahead and start at verse 4 and now read on down.
John chapter 13 and verse 4. He riseth from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter saith unto him, Lord, dost thou wash my feet?
Go ahead.
Verse 7. Yahushua answered and said unto him, What I do thou knowest not, but thou shalt know hereafter.
Peter, listen, Christ told him, he said, yes, you don't know what I'm doing right now, but the time will come when you are going to know. Because he was showing Peter how to serve. He was showing Peter to what degree the servitude runs and how you are to what? Execute your servitude like a servant. Listen, when you read this, it's crystal clear that all these, generals and bishops and captains, we're not operating in that spirit. Ain't nobody operating like that. They'll say they are, but you don't have to argue with nobody. Just measure us all. Just watch our works. Watch how don't only listen to what we say, listen to how we say it. Listen to what spirit in which we say it. Measure what we say by our actions. You understand?
Hey,
Go ahead. Yes.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't want to say nothing.
No, brother, go ahead.
I gotta say it. I met somebody it was a military dinner. He was a waiter. He damn near looked just like that guy for 300. He was tall though. He was tall, but his face was completely disfigured.
This nigga was a waiter at a dinner?
He was a waiter. And it made me think, when I looked at him, I was like, what if Christ looked like that? And I couldn't even look at him.
Right.
I felt like if I was looking at him, then I thought that maybe someone would think that I'm judging, I'm staring.
Right.
I just felt nothing but self-consciousness and I felt pity.
Right.
And I'm like, what I really need to be pitying is myself and my mindset.
Yeah, exactly. I've been the same way. I'd be like, man, what's this doing at dinner, bro? This ain't the one I won't serve me at dinner, bro. I gotta hold my food in, shit. Shoot. Just telling you, listen, now what am I doing? I'm being truthful, I'm being transparent. Because those are the first thing that would come on my mind. Then the training, the scriptures would kick in and decide that Nagaha is dropping. But the problem is, if that side don't kick in, then I done spent all of this time in the truth to just to not have gone a true a transformation. So yeah, that's a very telling attitude, because the truth of the matter is we're just using that figure to get an idea of what the scripture is saying about Christ. We're not saying he was identical to that. He could have been worse. You don't know. But I tell you what, huh?
No, I'm just thinking, you're dropping some serious gems. As always, Carl, I'm not sure everyone's picking it up. So I just want to reiterate some of the things that you've mentioned in regards to this. You said maybe about half an hour ago about how you've been transparent with your life, and how, the things that touch certain people, about, you said, dropping about how you were, a foster kid, to some people, that would, that might be, too shameful to announce before the whole world, but so here we're reading this about, how shy, is, we should be looking at this and asking ourselves, you mentioned the word transparent on a few occasions now. Are we transparent to one another? I'm looking at these, these three brothers and on the screen. Can you look to the man to your left and look to the man to your right and say, this brother knows me in and out?
Right.
Have you been that transparent?
Thank you. Do we know each other? Because I'm a Yakuza knows me.
Yeah, and
knows
me. Yeah. Yeah.
Good, bad, and indifferent.
Exactly.
That is what our endeavor is. And I'm gonna show you that. I'm a Yakuza. Can you find that verse? And that you do know those that labor among you.
Okay.
That's in there. If one of you brothers find it first, you could call it out.
1 Thessalonians 5:12.
Say that again.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 12.
1 Thessalonians, chapter 5 and verse 12.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and
now
verse 12.
we're getting ready to put a whole different spin on it. Now, when I said different spin, meaning we're peeling back the layer of what the easy, most, let's say the most, how can I put it? The most palatable breakdown of this verse. We're gonna peel beyond that. Go ahead and read it on me, because I call the verse out again.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 12. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you.
See that? That means one another and what? And above. That means the elders. But now what does that mean? What is it that gets you their transparency? In other words, let's say Elisha is sitting right there in the middle, Yeshua behind him, right? You have Nathaniel to his right and Mawala, and you got Nagaha over there playing incognito for the screen, right? No, the point is, how well do you know each other? Because you can't serve one another. When we say serve one another, what are you serving? You're serving one another's needs. That's what that means. We all have need of something. And how can you serve me? Are you doing a blanket statement, a blanket serving? Are you involved in what do you call that? How do you call that, man? When, like, let's say you're working at an auto plant and the machines come by, a production line servitude. That means you just got one thing to give everybody. Like, like a production line, and on this production line, all of the car doors are made. Nothing but the car doors. You want the dashboard console, you got to go to that other production line at the Ford plant. We're not supposed to have that type of what? That type of servitude. Our servitude has to be configured and specialized. I have to be able to be what Elisha needs for me to be for what his deficiencies are. And then I have to be whatever. Well, listen, I can be the same thing that I'm being for Elisha to my warlock because he's going to benefit. But he still has his own particular needs based on his specific deficiencies. Simple and plain. And it's like that with all of us. So you got to know each other. You have, and listen, and that means there is a spiritual Christ reciprocity that's supposed to be among you. When I say reciprocity, if this brother's making an effort to get to know you, you're supposed to what? You're supposed to accommodate that by opening up. And then you in turn have to be just like that. But that ain't how it's done. You know how you get somebody to open up? By opening up first. That's what always works. If it's going to work, because it ain't promised that dude is as sincere as you. But if it's going to work, you have to show him what openness is. That one is the one that has always worked for me. Meaning if it was meant to work. You understand? Go ahead, I'll read that verse again.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 12. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you.
And so when Ariana saw that I was open, he was like, damn, and he didn't really realize, and I didn't either, that we had so much, and we both had come up in foster homes. We both had mothers that we had brothers that didn't have the same fathers. Our mother, had been with different men. We sat there, and I would have never thought that somebody with all that knowledge and that could get down to them scriptures that was just so manifold in this work was what come from a simple setting, a simple, shameful setting as my own, huh? And that's the power of listen, and all that is what? Christ disrobing himself, showing them defects. He wasn't doing that to say, he wasn't flashing them. He was serving them, and that was a part of it. So he didn't think twice about what they perceived of what they saw. He was too busy serving them. He was too busy giving them the example, and he says that. Now let's go back and read that. He told Peter, he said, you don't know what I'm doing now, but the time will come when you will know. But he's telling them what he's doing. Go ahead and pick up on the Yetazah. What's that verse 7?
Yeah. John chapter 13 and verse 7. Yahushua answered and said unto him, what I do thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter.
Go ahead.
Peter saith unto him, thou shalt never wash my feet.
Now, why did Peter say that? Peter was coming from a prideful perspective that Christ, he felt, should have had. This is beneath you. I'm not going to even let you wash my feet. That's what he's saying. I'm not going to even let you. He's not saying, you ain't about to touch my feet. He's like, you're my master. But Christ is going to come back and explain it. And that's why I try to show you. We're here to serve, and we're here to serve indiscriminately of what we feel a person deserve or not. Go ahead, read on down.
Verse 8. Peter saith unto him, thou shalt never wash my feet. Yahushua answered him, if I wash thee not, thou hast no part with me.
He said, if I don't do this to you, you ain't got no part with me, which means you don't belong here. You're not going to be included in this work. So, of course, we know that the cleansing is symbolic for having all of the negative, all of our undesirable qualities removed from us by the word of Christ, by adherence to the word of Christ, and then execution of our servitude. But you got to be clean to do that. And I'm cleaning your feet. Go ahead, read on down.
Verse 9. Simon Peter saith unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
So he's like, well, if that's the case, wash all of me. Because Peter did not want to be excluded, but he still wasn't getting it. It was about servitude. It was about embracing servitude. It was about transparency in servitude. It was about being everything that the servant needs for you to be. And that's not talking about for the weakness. That means you got to be the part that's uncomfortable for him. But if you don't be that, he won't get the lesson that only you can give him. How to build. If we sat back and made everything based on what was easy or convenient, I'd probably be 57 years old, still living in the garage of the last foster home that's the setting that I was in when the Most High woke me up. I was living I was 23 years old, living in the garage of the last foster home that I had lived in. So imagine, but the inconvenience, Yatazah, of having to go to New York, because at the time, back in 1990, I had been in the States, I had been in California for 2 years in the truth and started looking for schools. There wasn't no other school. There were other brothers that knew that they were the Israelites, and they didn't offer this. They didn't offer the scriptures like that. So I had to go through the inconvenience of of quitting my job, leaving. At that time, I only had one child, 5 years old. My oldest daughter now is like 38, close to 40 now. and go to New York to where the one school was. This is what we have to what? This is what we have to go through in order to know what building costs. In other words, what it costs to build. It's so costly to build that it costs to learn how to build. You got to be willing to, and Christ told us that. He said, if you're not what? If you're not willing to forsake all that you have, you cannot be my disciple. A disciple is a student, and the only responsibility as a student has is to learn. But if you ain't willing to leave all to get this lesson, you can't learn. Go ahead, Amayetazah. Verse 9, one more time.
Verse 9. Simon Peter saith unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
Go ahead.
Yahushua saith to him, He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit. And ye are clean, but not all.
Listen to that. In other words, he's talking about their hearts. He was doing something symbolic while demonstrating to them to what degree their servitude ran. Where am I at? Verse 10. Yahushua said to him, He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet. What is Christ saying? You know, in other words, this is after Christ said, wash all of me. I mean, Peter said, wash my hands and my head. Christ is saying that that's not needed. He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet. That means a person that's clean on the inside. Christ is talking at that moment of the moment. Of you 12, all of you who are washed, all I got to do is wash your feet. But there's one who is not washed. That's what he's talking about, their mind, their spirit, what purpose that they were there to serve. Read it again, verse 10.
Verse 10. Yahushua saith to him, He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet.
Needeth not, that's the comma, needeth not save. Save means accept. Because Christ is saying the rest of you is clean. Christ wasn't speaking of the physical body. The washing of the feet was him demonstrating servitude. He's not telling them you're unclean. He was showing them, I'm here to serve you. When Peter misunderstood and said, well, then wash my hands and my head, he's like, you don't need that, just your feet. That's what he's saying. But because all of you guys are clean, but there's save one. There's one of you who isn't. He's talking about you. So he's talking about what? All of you guys have been transparent. You've been real. There's one of you whose insides is not clean. And Christ was there washing his feet as well. Did that call on me yet,
Yeah.
Washing Judas's feet as well. And he wasn't referring. That's why Peter, like I said, Peter said, well, then wash my hands and my head. He said, no. He said, oh, those that are clean, he that is clean, you just need what? You need not that, just your feet. Because Christ was showing them servitude. But concerning true cleansing, you guys are already clean, except one. Read it one more time and move forward.
John chapter 13, verse 10. Yahushua saith to him, He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit.
But it's clean all over. Every whit meaning everywhere. Go ahead.
But is clean every whit. And ye are clean.
And all of you guys are clean. Go ahead.
But not all.
There, but not all. Go ahead.
For he knew who should betray him. Therefore said he, Ye are not all clean.
Go ahead.
Verse 12. So after he had washed their feet and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them, Know ye what I have done to you?
Now listen. So what have I been doing? It's like a test, Doc. He's telling now who can break down what it was I just did? Right? Know ye not what I do? Go ahead.
You call me master and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am.
Hey, you call me master and Lord, and you do the right thing because I am your master and Lord, is what he's saying. Go ahead.
Verse 14. If I then, your Lord and master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet.
See that? If I can do this, then, and so what is he talking about? Servitude. He wasn't talking about everybody just coming to the school, war sitting there with a big old bucket washing people's feet. He's talking about war is there to do what? To serve y'all. How is a war shamps one end up? They're what? They're walking you through the process of what it is to be a servant so that you can grow up in the truth and serve properly. And you've had, let me say the truth, you've had shepherds, like you've had stewards that walked you through the servitude process poorly. And that's why during that process, you lost everything. That's the reality of it. You know, Kyle, I'm not the one to hide from that. You know, see, the greatest lessons, we got the Bible, and it's great. But there's one level of lesson that has even more impact than the Bible. How could he say such a thing? That has more impact than the Bible when accompanied with the Bible, and that is your life. Let me ask you this, what means more to you? What has a greater impact on you? The day you read when the Most High delivered Paul from certain death, or the day he delivered you from death? See, Paul showed me that, yeah, Paul was used as an example to show me what Christ would do through me. But me, Christ doing it through me, made it real. When I left my job and had no idea how I was going to eat, I saw how that's what inspired me. I hadn't even got that lesson yet. But I'm going through the scriptures. My policy has always been because of my own experience, right? Not only do we, how can I put this? I want to word this right. We don't just walk through this. We read the scriptures. You always hear me say we embody the scriptures. So the Most High gives us this Bible to lure us in. I'm going to put it like that, to attract us, to draw us. Why? Because we read about the history and we're taken over by it. But then what is that the Most High really wants? He wants his word to mean as much to you as it did to Paul. Do you understand what I'm saying? He wants his word and this experience that we're reading to touch you and that you be convinced like Paul was convinced. And so that's why I said, as far as the lessons go, there is a level of learning that goes beyond what you read in the scriptures. And it's what you read in the scriptures happening in your life. That's what this is about. And so now here's the point. War and the brothers with him are there to what? To chaperone you through the part of your life that needs chaperoning. Because the time is going to come when you're going to have to go on your own. And in order to know that the Most High works in the fashion today that he worked in the scriptures, you have to experience it. And it's for the positive and the negative. When you do something wrong, you have to feel the rejection behind the consequences, right, of your ill thought decisions and actions. You got to feel and wonder, is this what it was for Saul? Is the Most High rejecting me entirely? And because you're supposed to get the living shit scared out of you if something you did leads you to believe that could be the case, because that's the last thing that any of us want. But most of us, in fact, need that fear. We need that shock. We need to have the freedom to make our decisions after having been taught, make a decision that is contrary to what we've been taught, and then feel the sting of that rebellion. And then wonder like hell, do the Most High even want me? Why would you ask such a question behind him punishing you for your evil deeds? The only time I would ask that question is if I did good deeds and know they were good and I'm being rejected. But it goes to show you we're so unwilling to accept the fact that I did something wrong and I'm being punished for it, that when we get punished, we be wondering, do the Most High still love us? Well, what suggests that, and then even that right there shows you how off we are, because the scriptures say all that the Most High loved, he chastened. You just got punished. But we be so rebellious that we take what the Most High told us he measures love by correcting. He even tells you that on earth. He that loveth his son oft calls him to feel the rod. So it takes men and an experience. It takes a trajectory and a history to make this experience real, more real for us. Huh? That's why you have to have you have to have a war, but before you had been under the previous stewardship. You had to go through that. You have to go, just like you can't stay up and be 24 hours of sun. Niggas be running around here. What is it? Melatonin and the serotonin levels in the brain buzzed out because your body, we're locked in with nature. We're locked in with nature. That means when the nighttime comes, we have hormones or cortisol, the chemical levels in our brain, the chemical substances in our brain that accommodate the nighttime hours so we can sleep and so that the body can go into the levels of sleep that's required for you to repair. If you're a child, for you to grow. If you're sick, for you to heal. So, in other words, you have to have that nighttime so that you can be what? Ready and be able to accommodate what the day has in store for you. And then that day, your brain has the chemicals that accommodate it as well. So that you can maximize the activities that have to be performed in the day. Well, that's how the Most High do it with us. We go through dark periods in this experience, y'all, where we have shitty ass shepherds, selfish, doubtful, lustful, and undisciplined. And the flock be feeling it. Just like the flock felt the sting of Saul's kingdom. And the scriptures tell you that they was catching hell. And that's why the men that followed David, you go back and you read Samuel. It says all of those that were discontent and in debt, I used to call them David's 3D, because it said they were discontent, in debt, and something else. They were described as three things that were that began with a D. I should call them David's 3D crew. But they saw what? They saw a good man in David. They saw a man of the Lord. They saw hope in David. And David became a captain over. It started off as 400 men, and it grew to 600 men. And them and all their families. You got that, Elisha?
I was looking for it.
Okay. It says in debt, discontent, and something else. I can't remember what the third D was. But it's gonna be First Kings. I think it's First Samuel or Second Samuel. No, First Samuel, probably chapter 5. David was on the run.
First Samuel 22:2.
Read it. Read verse 1 and 2.
Yeah. It says, David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave Adullam.
Right.
And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him. And everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them.
And go ahead.
There were about 400 men.
Right. And so when you move on down in the history, it ended up being 600 men. They was distressed and debt and discontent. Discontent means simply they was unhappy. But they had to be under Saul. And the Most High used what? That negative to take all those righteous men and have them cleave to David, because the Most High was already, establishing David's cabinet. Who do you think when David became the king, who do you think he made his princes and all of the authorities? And if you understand, but those that were loyal with him at the bottom, those when the king had put out orders to David has to die. That's how the Most High showed who he was with. And those men and those families and their women and children were rewarded, y'all. Imagine that. Now that's what we had to go through. We had to go through that unfavorable experience that made brothers want to even think twice before they come back to the school. and we lost everything. But why? You had to, because the Most High, let me say this. When we first got down to San Antonio, Texas, the Most High had Ariella and myself. We had just picked up Mashaba, established this place in December of '92. And then after the first time around, we could only stay for 10 days. Then we came back and did the second stint for like 6 months. And we left the brother in charge who, when we came after so many years, we hadn't gained anything and had lost a lot. A lot of families were offended, brothers were offended, sisters were offended. And of course, above all, the Most High was offended. Then the Most High brought me through there. And in about, 3.5 years exactly, the Most High had myself and Bonabodna War built. I was the chief steward at the time. And the Most High blessed us with a beautiful school. Many of you know it, on Guadalupe Street down there in the cultural center, right middle of old Mexico. And then we had a beautiful home over on Glenview in San Antonio there. So then when I left, and let me say this is brother that from Kentucky that really helped me to understand it. As much scriptures that I had, and he was a student, and it used to afflict me. I'm a Yaksak, only he can tell you what I went through when I heard how the school was lost and how men were peeling off. He's the only one that saw the affliction that I went through and had to wait. Then, let me say this. So after 18 years of that, look at where you are now. And now the Most High is giving a war an opportunity to demonstrate of what quality his stewardship will consist. That's how it is. The dynamic, this is how it is supposed to be. And then guess what you have before you? You have a legacy of positive and negative examples. You have a legacy of what to do and what not to do. The Most High don't just give you good, he don't just give you evil only. He don't give you the proper example only. He don't give you the good example only. He gives you both and lets you choose of what sort you're going to be. That's what he does. Now, you see the Most High is blessing the camp. The businesses, different businesses and things are being built up and opportunities are coming, but you're finding out that what? That it costs you hard work. It costs you servitude. What's up, Dowie? Oh, I thought you was
Also, on like a non-financial level.
Hold on. You gotta come here to where we can hear you good.
Yeah, on a non-financial level, because some people understand the certain finances, but men are growing intellectually and spiritually at a more rapid rate.
Right.
Because what used to piss me off was like, man, it took me forever.
Hold on. There's somebody doing some work or something, and just interfering with what you're saying. So let them do what they got to do first.
What I was saying was, what I'm talking about is the growth rate. Because in that time period where the camp was at a very foggy, hazy period, it took years to get like quality officership. I'm talking like years. I'm talking about years and years to build up certain skills because the examples were not as bright and clear. There was always a duplicity, or you have separate counsels, you have conflicting counsels. So the young men, when they try to grow, when they hit a weak period, they go to a conflicting counsel.
Right.
Strong, they went to a strong counsel. So we played this, we were salsa and merengue and bachata back and forth.
Right.
Up the chain of command now, going back and forth like, I want to be strong. I know want to be strong. And so what I'm saying is now, since there's more of a one clear path, we're saying the same thing. I see men growing faster than I grew up in the truth. It took me 10, 15, 20 years to get where I want to be. But younger men are able to skip those periods of stagnation.
Right.
So the growth rate is quicker. It's like, damn, I wish I came in the camp and was like this. You know what I'm saying?
Let me say this. Back in the day, a war and the brother that was over him was just in a tug of war. And the brother that was over him that I left simply didn't want to follow in the path that the Most High, and the example that the Most High had me lead there, period, point blank. But I'm going to show, we're going to read about that phenomenon real quick. And this is how you'll know. Go to Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, and you're going to go to chapter 10, and start off at verse 1, right? And you're going to read verses 1 through 4, right? Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 in the Apocrypha, verses 1 through 4. Ain't that cold, brother? You
Yeah.
Read it.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
So what Darius is speaking about was what is a reflection of the shepherd that was there at the time. Chaotic. You got two forms of counsel. In other words, conflicting counsels. You got an element there that's what? That's cleaving. Y'all doing some moving or what, man? You seeing all these bodies pass by the screen? I'm starting to get dizzy. Did my thing go? The internet?
No, yeah. No.
Oh, theirs must have froze then. And look, is it me or was that just out of nowhere a burst of activity out?
No, there was people walking back and forth. I think there was moving stuff.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. Is it me or was that distracting as fuck?
I think they're frozen.
No, they're frozen now. They're frozen because of their internet link is down.
Ah.
But I was just trying to say, was it me or was that little burst of moving back and forth?
Yeah.
As can be?
Yeah, I saw people moving back and forth.
I guess we're still live on YouTube, man. Hey,
yeah, we are.
YouTube, baby. What's happening, YouTube? We'll start tripping.
This is I'm the host.
Just when we get ready to make this point, what'd you say? They're moving now?
No, they've disconnected. I'm the host now, so we're still live there.
Okay, well, let's go on and get down until they come back in. We get a message or something telling us, hey, y'all done hijacked our show. So we were reading because it's still, how can you tell? Oh, it says live YouTube?
Yeah, mine just says live on the left, top left-hand corner.
Live, and then there's a little bitty writing that says on YouTube. So good. Okay, go ahead. Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 10 and verse 1.
Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 10 and verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
Now let's just take this concept and transpose it over into a school, a congregation, a church, right? In other words, you'll know it by the well ordered. And I remember just all the years of a war counseling and talking, and we both having to kind of keep each other in order to remind each other. And then while me and a war was going back and forth, you and me here in Guatemala was going back and forth over the same paradigm, over what things that were disorderly, but I couldn't seem to get a clear readout. You know what I mean? But it was the scriptures telling us it's all reflective of the judge, meaning it's all what? It's all indicative of the state, the conduct, or the work ethic, right, of the steward in charge. Read on down, verse 2.
Verse 2. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers.
So when he said it was foggy and hazy, and it took him 10 years to get what men are getting now in like a few months, that was because his shepherd was foggy and hazy.
Yeah.
His shepherd was nebulous. That's the reality of it. And giving conflicting, first of all, we're supposed to have one body of counselors. Everybody come before that body of counselors. This is how we used to do it when I was there, but he deviated from that. And you do that, that's done from a person, from a spirit who's trying to gain some type of advantage. That's the reality. That's the only reason why you deviate. The person that deviates, what? Deviates because in his or her mind, there is some advantage to be gained in doing it this way as opposed to that way. That's what deviation is for. Whether the cause of the deviation is because this way is easier, whether the cause of the deviation is because this way, that way isn't as necessary. It's what? Even necessary and deviant are necessary or easier on who? So like I said, it be the person. There'll be something in their mind that they stand to gain in deviating. And in this case, it was occasions for the flesh. Read on down, verse 2 again.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10, chapter 9 and verse, no, chapter 10 and verse 2, sorry.
Yes.
As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the rule of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein.
And that call of what up?
Powerful.
And they got some good news. A war wrote me today, man. A couple of days ago, they closed the deal on their land.
Oh, beautiful. Wow.
They will officially be some land development. But listen up, and this is just since what? August of 2018. And here it is, not even 3 years later, and the business is up and running. The Most High had blessed them with the land that they purchased. It got closed a couple of days
in the
ago.
In the midst of a pandemic.
In the midst of a pandemic, and in the midst of what? Of rising inflation, specifically in housing and land.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So, all that is that window, that glimmer, like people used to say of hope, that silver lining around that dark cloud. That's our life, right? But we can't have the silver lining without the dark cloud. Read on down, verse 3.
Verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people.
So an unwise steward destroyeth his congregation by his policies, by his dynamic.
They're back now.
They're back?
They're back now.
Are they back with us?
Yeah. We're back.
Okay, we just kept on teaching y'all. I said, what the hell, you know? Right, you guys can go back on YouTube and get it. but we will back up and go back to verse 1. All right. It better be. The hell. What? No. Excuse me. Did I offend you? That's some lady up in here getting all offended. The hell, man. Sis Ted, what is this? What's that thing that talked to you, Alice? Alexa, is that Alexa?
No.
I think Zoom have changed. They must change their privacy settings because now they inform you that it's being recorded and it's being live streamed. You have to consent to it.
Okay, so let me make sure before we move forward. Are we up and running?
We're live, but I'm not sure if it's been recorded. Is it being recorded?
God, it's gonna go.
Okay, cool. All right, so listen up. What we're doing, you guys are being raised up to be servants. We just read, Christ said he did what? He said, I did everything I did concerning Washington to be an example. Now, what are we finding out? We're finding out that we have what? Before us. Why are examples there? Examples are there to be observed. They are there to be viewed. They are there to be either emulated or what? Or rebuked or rejected. The negative we reject, we eschew, as the scriptures say in Job. But the what? The positive we emulate. And the term emulate don't just mean follow. The term emulate refers to you follow with the intention of being better. This is what I'm always saying. So read that verse on me. We're back in Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha, chapter 10 and verse 1.
It's kind of
Hold on. I think they're trying to work some stuff out.
Oh, they're frozen again. They keep freezing.
Okay, cool. That's all I meant. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Okay, cool. It's all good.
Y'all good?
Cool. No more interruptions, Doc. It's cool. It's all good, Doc.
All right.
It's like.
Okay, go ahead. Chapter 10 and verse 1, Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
So now that's what you're supposed to do. Right now, you have a war in Shamshuan and Dawiyad. You're supposed to be noting that. How else can you learn from it if you're not monitoring, if you're not in quote observation? Just like beforehand, you were supposed to be observing what? The previous shepherd. That's how you learn. Either way. When I say either way, once again, the Most High teaches us what to do and what not to do. He teaches us how to be and how not to be. And then he gives us the option to choose what we want to do. Which example are you going to follow? Then he turns around and make it a little bit more what? Accommodating by when you have a slothful, sluggish, flesh inspired or motivated shepherd, the Most High have the school go through a certain regimen of circumstances, usually negative. Then he'll put a prosperous one, someone that is diligent, someone that is honest, someone that is spiritual, and then he'll bless you. He makes it easy for us to make the right choice.
Mm.
And so you got brothers that won't come back to the school or that diminish their participation because of this, because of he did this and this was negative. Brother, that has to happen for you to learn not to be like that. And that's a scary notion, because that means that person then exercise themselves into a position of expendability with the Most High. And now the negative dude is being used and he's expendable just to what? Teach you on how not to be.
Yep.
His only value now is to show people what happens when you displease the Most High. Then once the Most High feel he have given you enough of that lesson, he removed that dude. And that's what happened, y'all. Once again, we still dealing with abiding in Christ because he was not rolling like a servant. And that's why at the end of it all, the school lost and he was personally gaining. Selfish, evil, lustful, deceitful, weak, prideful. And you got all the lessons, whether you were able to see it or not. That's why the Most High give us this thing called a recollection. That's why he put in us this thing called a memory. That's why he gave us the ability to distinguish and to discern. So now you're under another steward and he's being measured by the Most High as well. And he is just an extension of a lesson for you that began way before he got put in charge. Because why? Because one of these days, your time is going to come. One of these days, your number is going to be up. And are you going to be able to be for men a servant? Are you going to be able to understand that the only reason you're there is because they have need of you? You have to show them what it's like to be built. You don't get to be the head, a slothful head. The head has to be willing and able to outwork everybody else. Outwork everybody else. Because that's how we are and that's what we need. We'll say, oh yeah, I got it. But then we'll be in the background, this nigga ain't doing shit. We'll be upset, we'll be resentful. I ain't getting no rest. How come he get the rest? So when I was there, none of us got no rest until our campaigns were finished. And them campaigns bore fruit in strong men, a strong business, a big, beautiful school, and a big, beautiful home. And that was what we needed. We needed to be able to have a spot for people that were, once they get taught to the truth, and it's the Most High's will to bring them in, many of us become transit. You know that. Our women kick us out. Our parents say y'all is following their cult. So this is how you serve people who ain't even coming yet. You're serving people who you don't even have an idea who's going to be there yet. Hell, when we was building, we didn't know Sham Shawan would end up living there. Sham Shawan had a crazy ass lady that was coming and destroying our property. Sorry, Sham Shawan, for putting it on you if you're watching this, brother. But I remember. I remember Sham Shawan going through his little proud his prideful era, working through Eastern Oils. He done been through the whole thing. He had to endure with ideas, things that could have made the business, that could have made the school, that could have made the men's spirit to blossom, being shot down, only to what? Being shot down for nothing in exchange. Not being shot down because, no, this is not the time, because right now we got this going on. Right now, this is more useful tool. No, just shot down because it would end up meaning more work. He had to deal with that for 18 years. All the ideas. Trying to show you out, but those are the ones that listen, how long did David have to deal with Saul, who was trying to kill him? See, this is the deal. Jacob had to deal with his father-in-law for 20 years. And he was a dishonest bastard.
Yeah.
He was a dishonest bastard, man. Changing a man's wages every 2 years. Go ahead, Amiyekazai, read on down, verse 2.
Just to touch on what you mentioned about strong men being built.
Go ahead.
You know, I just want to touch on that. You know, how do you become a strong man? You know, it's not about, you know, speaking deeply, you know, and shouting, you know, and speaking over people and acting, you know, confident or you know, or just being loud. It's about, especially when you come to the truth, it's about really, first and foremost, being vulnerable. You know, I was touching on earlier about being transparent. Looking to the man to your left, looking to the man to the right. Are you an open book to that brother? Are you an open book to your elders? You know, can Shamshwan and Awar and Dawayard say, you know, we know you in and out, right? Yeah. And if the answer to that is yes, which I hope it is, you have to understand that it's not a case of, oh yeah, I'm just gonna open up and tell them everything about me, and then everything be rosy, and then they accept me for who I am. Yes, they're gonna see who you are, and then they're not gonna judge you, but expect correction. Expect every time you speak and you say something wrong that you're chastised, and you can't shut down, because now that's weakness. Now you're looking into your emotions. There was a time when I came in with Kawakab, literally I couldn't say anything right. Everything I said was ablazing because Kawakab was teaching me how to think. He was refining my mind. But I didn't shut. Every time I got blazed up, I would smile. It was a joy. It was a joyous experience for me. Yes, it was rough because he was very fiery. Yeah, it wasn't nice to be blazed up. Do you know what I'm saying? And to be, you know, corrected. But I loved the experience because I knew I was growing. I knew that with each blazing, it was a step closer, you know, to Yahushua and the Most High and how they wanted me to be. I didn't close down and try to protect that weakness. I didn't close down and try to, you know, protect my pride. No, I opened up even more. You know what I'm saying? Every time I did something wrong, I was showing Kalkab. I was telling him everything because I wanted counsel on everything. I wanted to learn how to think because I recognized that the Most High had sent me to a wise and a sincere leader. And I said to myself, I want to follow this guy, you know what I'm saying, and get everything he's got and become like him, you know, and get closer to your house because I saw the Most High was with him. And hopefully you guys can see that the Most High is with Awar and with Shamshwan and with Dawayard. And once you can, because Kalkab and I can see it. And like I said, once you guys can see that, that's when, you know, you should feel able to let go and submit yourself to these men. Because as Kalkab was speaking, I was sitting there. That's why a lot of times you guys been saying, because I'm reflecting my experience. And I remember literally, I was thinking, damn, I missed that dynamic because believe it or not, you have it very easy. You younger men have it very easy because what you don't realize is I don't want to say burden, but you don't understand the responsibility that elder man has in the eyes of the Most High.
It is a burden, but see, we've been taught the term burden is negative. The term burden simply means workload.
Yeah.
That's what burden is. It is another way of saying responsibility.
Yeah.
Hold up. Continue in your thought, but first look up burden, read the definition, and then continue.
Burden. That which is borne or carried.
That which is borne or carried. That could be a sack of bricks, or that could be the responsibility of the family. You get yours too, Amayetazar. Continue
These
on.
young men are quick, Carl. Mike, he runs with LT. I even started searching it and already got it. Like, wow.
He got that Alexa phone. They know what you thinking.
I'm like,
you know what niggas are thinking. No, do not lean over. They know you're getting ready to fart. Right? So you be like, Alexa, keep your ass in order. Go ahead, brother. What you got?
It says a load. It's the same one as 1828. That's a load.
Okay.
Hence, that which is born with labor or difficulty, that which is grievous, wearisome, or oppressive.
There you go. Oh, that's good enough. Thank you. Thank you. And it was the same one that you had there on the exercise.
Yeah.
Continue on the exercise. So you were saying the burden.
Yeah, just going into, how to become how a younger man becomes a strong man.
Let me take you back to your thought. You were saying that you don't know the burden that a war in Dawiyat and Shamswan have.
Yeah.
Burden.
Yeah, exactly. As a young man, it's actually life is so easy because
Simple,
all you have. Pardon?
I said it's so simple and uncomplicated.
Honestly, it really is, because all you have to do really is just follow, right? All you have to do is just exactly obey. I'm telling you how easy it is. Honestly, right? As a young man, your only responsibility, right, is to follow and obey, submit to the elder man, right? But that elder man, right, the Most High is watching his stewardship. The Most High is watching how he deals with you guys. The Most High is watching whether he's sincere and whether he's leading his flock correctly, because you all belong to the Most High. Now, so imagine that. Imagine that responsibility, knowing every morning that you wake up, the Most High is judging how you treat these younger men. The Most High is judging, are you being fair with these men? The Most High is judging, are you cultivating these men?
Now stop.
The Most High is judging.
No, listen. You said being fair and cultivated. I just want to give some perspective. Fair is not just talking about, this is not fair. Fair is based on what it is that the Most High have you there for. Are you being deprived of that? The brothers was being treated unfairly by what? By being made, by having that inordinate softness extended.
Yeah.
That was unfair. See, I just want to provide that perspective. Because remember, these words carry power, and we have these impressions of fair as in, he got an ice cream cone, but I didn't. No, that ain't fair. You know what fairness is? Fairness is, brother, you was taken through the grassroots stages. You had fire put on you. You've been a part of an experience from the time that you came in up until your stewardship in San Antonio that saw businesses built, 2 and 3 businesses built in Albuquerque, 2 and 3 businesses built in California, Los Angeles. Now you come here and you've been a part of, or you followed and obeyed and participated in the purchasing of a home, the purchasing of a school, the building of a business, the healing of flock, and you're not going to give this congregation of what you have. You're not going to take them through what the Most High took you through. That is what the Most High is watching for concerning fairness. That everything that was invested in you, how dare you withhold any of that from them when you know their challenge is going to be greater than yours? That's what fairness is. And listen, and Christ told the apostles that. He said, freely you have received, freely give. That means everything that I gave you, you better give to them. The way I served you, you have to serve them.
Equity, yeah.
Yeah, man. It ain't talking about you got the ice cream cone and he didn't. He got to stay home from work, but you didn't. It's talking about of the hardness. Yet as you spoke of strength. You know what builds strength? Putting the mind, the body, and the spirit under great duress. Yeah. Physical duress builds physical strength. Mental duress builds mental strength, and spiritual duress builds spiritual strength. You don't get strong without it in any realm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Honestly, so as a young man, you have to be an open book, you know, to that elder. Like they got to know, because how can they know what areas of your character needs to be worked upon if you're not being open, if you're not exposing these flaws and these weaknesses? And so, you know, we were going through John chapter 13, where, you know, Yahushua was showing that, you know, he was being an example because he was there to serve. But what I wanted to stress also, when, you know, with that is it's so important as well for the younger men to open up, to enable that man to serve you. Because like I said, he has to give you all, you know what I'm saying, all the wisdom and the instructions. But if he doesn't know what the, you know, the help that you need, he can't do that. And so as a younger man, your role, right, is to be open, expect to be corrected. And the key is not to shut down when you are corrected, because then it's over for you. You might as well not be there. You know, you have to, as you're being corrected, embrace the fire, embrace the correction, knowing that, you know, you're growing. And I want to give you an example about becoming a strong man. When I first came into this truth, right, I was a beast, a complete beast, right? So lustful, right? Violent. You know what I'm saying? Just wild, right? And we used to have we had our store, and most of my clients were women, right? I just knew how to, you know what I'm saying, just to work the women, right? And initially when I first started, right, I would always try and find a way to turn, you know, the sales dynamic into, you know, lust, just sex. I'd always find a way, you know what I'm saying, to impart, like, you know, sexual innuendos into, like, you know, my sales pitch. Because that was that.
All of his sales pitches was about getting panties off of women.
Exactly, right?
You could be selling wild oregano, which is the worst smell in the world. But he found a way to make it some type of panty vagina innuendo in it.
For real, you know? And so that was just there. That was just my thing. I just had to get girls, right? And so I was just opening that spirit. And Kyle would be hearing my pitch, and that it would just be blazing me up. You know what I'm saying? You're selling incense. How are you talking about how you selling incense and bringing, you know what I'm saying, vaginas into it, you know? And it's I was just getting blazed up on that, you know what I'm saying, just working on myself. And I grew to the point, right, where I would now be bringing, you know, the women to the store, and I still had, you know, that power and that influence, you know, over, you know, these women. But what I learned to do, right, rather than, you know, engage in that type of conversation, it became now, how can I describe it? This is I'm not going to describe what I used to do, right? So certain women would come into the store, and they would be, you know, quite lustful themselves, and I could feel their lust. I could feel, what I'm saying, feel that spirit. And what I would do with these types of women, right, I would almost tap into that. I don't want to go all esoteric, right, but I would tap into that lust, right, and so, like, not even standing like quite close, and so there was an exchange, right, but I wouldn't engage in. I wouldn't say anything sexual. It would just be all just, you know, in the spirit. There will be an exchange of like there was a spiritual dynamic going on where
there would be an exchange of energies.
Yeah.
He would, because I would be there, he would accommodate them to the degree that it served his purpose.
Exactly.
And then
exactly.
Once his purpose was served, he wouldn't even shut down. He'd take a long time and diffuse it. It's
exactly.
Like, you know, putting that fire out, and then, okay, because listen, and then I remember when the spirit was really testing, because once the Mama Yetza got disciplined, then the Satan started coming harder. Women would come into the thing and be like, "Do you got some oil or something for this?" And they pull their titty out.
Yeah. Yep.
Literally.
Yep.
I'll be like, "No, I got something for that." Now hold on, I got to take you in the back where we keep that special. But they would do, and I'm like, I'm a yesterday. Let me say this. They're coming for you, right? Hold on, again. I don't want them to miss this one. Because I'm gonna tell them about that couple that came out, was flashing through their films, their video.
For real.
Their video.
Oh, yeah, they're frozen.
Yeah, they're frozen, man. I think it's their routing. But in the while, how the Most High take us through these experiences, brother, and you know what I mean? You like I said, like you can't, it goes back to what I've been saying recently, right? You can't pass on a torch that you haven't carried. But if you have carried that torch, brother, you can make it vivid. And in that sense, it is easier for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, it's really getting these young men to see it. Like it's so joyous. Like I was talking to LT today in the call, and you know, he said to me, we was talking about discipline, and he said to me, damn, it sounded like, you know, you'd mastered discipline, you know, when you're in Guatemala. And I was saying to him, I'm not that same guy, you know. And I said, yes, when I was in Guatemala, you know, I grew to become extremely disciplined, you know, and all of that. But I was saying to him that, you know, the scriptures talk about two being greater than one. And I was saying to him, these men really don't understand what they've got. I said, LT, I'm here by myself now. I said that discipline, that disciplined person that I grew up to become, you know, that humble person. I said that was all imposed upon me, you know. I said, and I say to him, I said, it was your father imposing that dynamic upon me that made me become disciplined, that made me become humble. You know, I said, because we're not going to voluntarily, you know, put ourselves under the degree of yoke that is required to become, you know, that disciplined, that humble, you know, that spiritual. You know, we're always going to choose, because we might push ourselves a little bit, but we're always going to choose convenience. But we need, you know, that elder to really impose that upon us, you know. And that's why it's so important that, like I said, these young men understand the importance of just submitting and obeying. And honestly, if there's one thing I can do, is just to get the young men to see it. Because I was saying to LT, I was like, I miss it so much. I miss it. I'm just trying my best, you know, that I possibly can, you know, being here by myself. But to have, you know, to have a sincere elder that can guide you and just really work with you. Honestly, these men just have to let go of that fear. And that's why I think it was powerful that you mentioned that becoming a strong man, because they really do need to understand, you know, it's a process, you know, that you know, you have to, that you go through to become strong. And it just requires being open, being vulnerable, you know, everything that you and I went through, basically.
Yeah, because I went through the same thing. And listen, I was teased. I won't say teased like nan, but they were sneer comments were made. I was called an Arialabat. Y'all there?
Here we here now.
Okay.
Oh, we're back.
All right, go ahead. Listen, I want to pull out a scripture that as I was describing about the thoughts and being constantly checked, everything that you say. The Most High tells us, let me say this, that's what we're supposed to want. I'm gonna prove it to you. We're already in the clean. First, let me jump on it right now. We'll come back to chapter 10. Go to chapter 22. You're going to go to chapter 22 and you're going to read the last verse of 22, and then you're going to read on down into chapter 23 of Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha.
Okay. Ecclesiastes chapter 22, verse 27.
Right.
Who shall set a watch before my mouth, and a seal of wisdom upon my lips, that I fall not suddenly by them, and that my tongue destroy me not?
Now this elder of ours is asking the Lord, who are you going to use to do that for me? That's what it means when he says, who shall set? The Most High ain't going to come down and say, He got men set up. Every time you say something, your thoughts have to be checked. That's how you learn how to, and then you check a person's thoughts. You check a person's words by the scriptures. You show them, measure their words by the scriptures and show them how they're off. But remember, in the book of Esdras, what does it tell us? It might be in Ecclesiastes. What does it tell us that words are, that speech is? It says speech is like a sixth or seventh sense that the Most High gave us. It is the interpretation. It is the interpreter of the cogitations of the heart. That means they what? Words. We were given speech so that our thoughts could be acted out, that our thoughts could be interpreted. And so the Most High endowed us with the ability to speak. So that means when a seal, right, is being set on your lips and your mouth, indirectly, your thoughts are being what? Corrected. Because he didn't endow us with the ability to read nobody's mind. And that's why he said, when you get checked, you don't supposed to shut down. That's one. Let me see this out. I'm a Yakuza will make it, you think it was all blazing. It was all blazing like in the first 4 years, man. It was blazing. But then did it not evolve into just every early morning preparations out?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Once his mind, once his spirit was disciplined, once his spirit was humbled, once his spirit was reconfigured to be a servant, brother, it was the most pleasant dynamic we had. We got there every morning at 8, opened the store. By 8:30, we out in the park. I'm giving them class.
Yeah.
We're out in the park waiting. Once we started seeing people get in line in the bank, we didn't want to be in the back of the line. We go and we continue our conversation in the bank line. We're inside the bank. I'm still teaching them in front of everybody.
Yep.
Then we have the work day. I'm teaching all during the course of the day. Come 4 o'clock, some students pop up. He's still working. I'm teaching. Come 7 o'clock, he would join us. We teach till midnight.
Beautiful.
Then we walk home breaking down the scriptures and talking. But it's the first 4 years was taming the beast.
Yeah.
But everything at that point that the Most High had put in me through experience under my teacher Ariana, and the course that the Most High, the trajectory that he had us on together, I did everything in the world to pour that on him. That's what it means when it says freely give, freely you receive, freely give. That's how you make a man strong.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amayatazar, read on down. Read verse 27 once more.
Ecclesiastes chapter 22, verse 27. Who shall set a watch before my mouth, and a seal of wisdom upon my lips, that I fall not suddenly by them, and that my tongue destroy me not?
Yeah, and so listen, he was telling you about how that lust, how he got a control of his lust. And I remember when them spirits started coming after him to test him. I told you about ladies coming in, pulling their breast out. There will be couples. I'm talking about couples from Europe, from the United States, and they be out. Yes, will be out on the street pulling people in. Oh, we want to show you some pictures from a trip. And oops, how did that get in there? You got this man showing Amayataza with his wife standing right there, naked pictures of her.
Deep.
I said, they're trying to seduce you, brother. This is the type of spirit that want to see a black man screw his white woman. We ran across that all the time. I used to get invited to parties in the Capitol, wanting me to do their wives.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But listen, don't act like it's strange. Everybody that ever worked in the mall, you might have passed your first 3 to 6 months having to deal with that. The type of women that you probably would have never got, them are the ones that's coming to you. Because why? Because Satan is sending them to pull you off. That's like flesh test 101. Huh? You know that. So in other words, that's how the Most High, but I had to blaze him. But then after about 4 years, that blazing became nothing more than counsels. Counseling him on how to deal with the brother that the Most High used to bring him in. But now this brother was going south. How to handle that brother. As long as he's still here, he's showing us that he still want to be worked on. He would do some hateful and evil things, say some hateful and evil and spiteful things toward the two of us. Because he hated the fact that we had married in. So these things is how the Most High build men, by setting what? By a watch over. That means they ain't just sitting there watching your mouth. That means when you say something, we don't sleep on it. And you're gonna feel, damn, I can't say shit around you. No, you can say anything you want. You just can't say nothing without getting checked.
Yeah.
This life is easy. That's how that shows you we don't want to learn. But that's what Christ was showing us when he disrobed himself. He was what? He was being open. He was being transparent. Look at all these knots on my body. Look at this hunchback. That's how you learn. Then he was showing us how to serve. While you're serving, you got to be transparent. Why? Because that's the first stage. Transparency, so that what? So that the person who the Most High is using to forge you as an instrument can know more clearly what he has to do. If your endeavor now is to hide, then you're the one that's going to come out what? Lacking. Then you're going to blame it on the teacher. When you ran the whole time because you was afraid, fearful, too prideful to manifest or let it be known what it was you really weren't, not what it was you really are, what it is that you're really not. That's what we be trying to hide. We don't be trying to hide what we are. We be trying to hide what we're not. We be trying to hide deficiencies. We be trying to hide fallibilities. We be trying to hide the things that we lack, making people think we have those things. We be want people to think we're confident when we're scared to just go up and say, "Hey, hello, how you having? You having a good day?" And strike a conversation. That's fear. Babies don't. 2-year-old kids don't even be like that. If they see something that intrigues them, they go up and ask you, "You grab me, get your ass over." I told you, stop talking to strangers. Then you grow up and be all timid. I don't know what she, you be like the damn lion on the Wizard of Oz. At the school roaring, but then when you get out in public, you all, if I only had the nerve, all scared and shit. That's the truth. That's what we are. Bunch of cowardly lions. But what are we afraid of? Of being seen, of being known. Read chapter 23 and verse 1.
Ecclesiastes chapter 23 and verse 1. O Lord,
now,
Father.
This is a prayer. Listen to this. This is him entreating the Heavenly Father. Go ahead.
O Lord, Father and Governor of all my whole life, leave me not to their counsels, and let me not fall by them.
When he says, leave me not to their counsels, let me not fall by them, he's talking about what was mentioned in the last verse of the previous chapter, his mouth and his lips. His mouth and his lips. Don't leave me up to the counsel.
You unmute your mic, please.
That's how everybody started talking all that shit right there.
Who is that?
Oh, he's gone now.
Okay. Well, there's some weird shit happening. What's going on up in here, man? I'm just trying, all these voices and shit popping up. Y'all gotta anoint that school, man. Y'all have some prayer service and burn at least a ton of frankincense up in that before class next Friday. At least next Friday, y'all can have this mysterious shit during the week, but I don't know, but it's gonna start to get to me. What the hell? You are being recorded, right? And then you got a nigga over here. What was that verse just saying? This nigga sound like somebody just talking shit. Who the hell is that? First I thought somebody, I said, is that me? I thought it was, see how you be listening on your phone, and then they let they.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well.
That wasn't there in class.
I thought it was you.
That was how
yeah.
I said, how come I'm hearing myself? Anyway, let me get back to it, brother. Verse 1, chapter 23, verse 1.
Ecclesiastes 23 and verse 1. O Lord, Father and Governor of all my whole life, leave me not to their counsels, and let me not fall by them.
Let me not fall by my mouth or my lips. It's talking about speaking errantly, speaking in stupidity, speaking in English. Because why? That's why the scriptures tell you, speak, young man, if there be need of thee. And scarcely if twice asked. You ain't supposed to have nothing to say except for what you're opening up about yourself. Continue, verse 2.
Verse 2. Who will set scourges over my thoughts, and the discipline of wisdom over my heart?
Now stop right there. You know what we got to do, Amayetazah. You have, now when the scriptures say scourge, the term scourge is an instrument that was used, and the action was named after the instrument that was used. So when he says scourge in your thoughts, imagine a person's body being scourged. In other words, it's supposed to, or it can get that brutal. Because we're men, he's going to show you what scourge. Give me a good one too, Amayetazah.
I will.
A good vivid image of the instrument first. And then
okay.
I want want you to bring up the one on how it was applied to the body.
Okay.
Because this is what, once again, this elder is petitioning the Lord for such a person to be used to scourge his thoughts. Who will set scourges over my thoughts? Check that out. Now that's a scourge, y'all. Now imagine every time you did something, you had to get that. Now show him, y'all got that right. Let that stay up there for a couple of more 10 seconds so that it could be examined, I guess, back on, when they go to watch the recording. Now go from there and get another image that shows how the scourging instrument was applied to the body as a means of discipline, as a means of punishment.
Okay.
The reason why I want to show you this is so that when you say scourge my thoughts, it's showing you you're going to be dealt with abrasively. Because that's what makes men. That's what hardens your character. That's what enables you to be spoken to and not have tears well up in your eyes. Now, go make that bigger. There, that's good enough. You can, there you go. That's good enough. Now look at that. That's the act of scourging. What happens is, you see to the right, that's a person's back. That shows you wasn't just striking. There was a way that you had to hit. And there were two soldiers, one on either side, hitting you. Pop, pop. And the intention was to reduce a person to the point of the threshold of death, but he not die. It was supposed to weaken him. It was specified by the Romans. It was specified by the Romans. This was their specialty. Now take this and replace that man on the post with your brain, with your mind. You understand? With your words. And that's how I rolled on Amiyatazar. I didn't play with him. Thank you, Amiyatazar. If he said something that was ludicrous, I showed him it was ludicrous, it was monstrously beastly, and I would wear his ass out in them scriptures. Literally. And back before our first trip there in San Antonio, and our second one, that's how I roll with the men. I could tell y'all that. Might be having all these stories, right? My eye could take a nigga back to memory lane like that. Y'all know that. But that's how. But listen, that's how it had to be done, and that's how it was done to me. That's what made my mind be able to handle that. Continue, Amiyatazar. One more time, verse 2.
Ecclesiastes chapter 23 and verse 2. Who will set scourges over my thoughts, and the discipline of wisdom over mine heart,
Continue.
that they spare me not for mine ignorances, and it pass not by my sins.
When it says that they spare me not, meaning that they not take it easy on me, that they not excuse me. When you deal with people out of not making it a point to not want to offend, so you're not trying to offend. But there's this way in the truth that to the carnal man, it's offensive. And that's why Christ tell you, one of the seeds in Matthew chapter 13 that don't make it. The second seed, right? It says it landed upon the ground and didn't get much depth of earth. What did it say about that seed? It said it represented the person that came into the truth anon with joy. But as time passes by, it says because of what? Offenses, because of the word, afflictions rise or persecutions rise because of the word. By and by, he is offended and he leaves. Because this is offensive when you don't make it a point to grow, when you make it a point to resist the learning process. But the scourges is supposed to be set on the mind. Listen, I'm looking at the sisters, how they are so beautifully adorned. Bravo, right? But look at what I had to do. Now, why do I say that? Because that is how a scourge is delivered verbally. It's supposed to be like that. because it's supposed to be indicative of the offense committed or the lack of respect rendered. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, if sisters can handle that, I mean, never mind. Let me just put it like this. The sisters handle stuff way better than many brothers are.
Yeah, 100%.
Just came back beautifully adorned, literally. Brothers I need to have a counsel. No, nigga, you need to shut your ass up and sit down in class and get these shit. You don't need no counsel. There's nothing enigmatic that I said. I ain't say no riddles. But everyone, that's how it is. And you guys know this. Be catching feelings,
Yeah.
Be feminine.
Yes, that's the
because
word.
that quality in a woman it's feminine, so it's her. We expect that. It's comedy on her. She's feminine. But when a man can't handle it, what the hell is that? Well, that's that femininity that get your ticket of the kingdom torn up. Remember, it tells you that in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, that the effeminate shall not enter among you, but through all the other things, the effeminate won't enter. So how do you take those of us that come up in a world that's designed to make men feminine? Y'all ain't listen. Our children ain't even got no masculine hero movies anymore. You got 90-pound bitches whooping up on Arnold Schwarzenegger and John, in the movies. Think about that. Hell, when I was growing up, we had Jim Kelly, we had Jim Brown, Frank the Hammer Williamson. Hell, we even had the Chinese people. We had Bruce Lee and all of them cats. We was coming out, didn't know what we was doing, kicking the shit out of each other, hurting each other, didn't even pound driving. We was watching the wrestling. We didn't have all of it. When I was little, we had a different group. We had Andre the Giant, Pork Chop. Right, y'all don't know nothing about Pork Chop. We had some cold-ass wrestlers back in the 60s and the 70s. Y'all like, damn, this nigga. Right, but that's who we used to watch. Pork Chop, Gorgeous George. Gorgeous George was like a wrestling version of Liberace, man. But these cats was rough. Then we had the roller derby. Y'all remember roller derby? Niggas knocking each other out on skates. Then they roll up together, they catch each other by their hands and swing it at you twice as fast as you can go by yourself. It's like hockey. It was like hockey on skates, but you had a little circle that you had to ride around. It was cold, but the point I'm trying to show you, that's what made us tough on the Yatazar.
Yeah.
We had images of what toughness was. And then when somebody got kicked in the balls, you suck it up, you roll up there for however long you need, and don't be crying. Get off the field, going over there and lay. I even got hit in the balls many times with baseballs and everything. I was just amazed that I had children, 8 of them, one of them was born with a little Spalding tattoo from their baseball. Let me messing with y'all. Point is, that's how we grew up tough. Nigga had a little baseball threading across his head, right? From getting hit in the ball. I used to be a back catcher. Pow! Brothers used to throw some cold ass curves and drops and catch me, man. I'm up here and bang! But that made you tough. Nobody want that. When I say it made you tough, let's be real. Those accidents, right? And then the girls is around, so you get to curl up, but you don't get to cry. You get hit, you get caught slipping and looking at the ball on the kickoff, bang, you get Windex. You got to get up and be like, all right, you got me. Then you collapse on the sideline. There was a what? You were always, now it was out of pride. It was out of pride, but listen, it shows you that when properly motivated, you could be a man. We did it for the wrong reason in the world. How come we can't do it for the right reason now? So we have to be scourged. We have to be roughened up. We have to be dealt with abrasively. Because that's how Christ's going to deal with us, y'all. He's going to tell us what to do. And if we don't do it, we're going to get killed. Simple and plain as that. Ain't nobody going to be running around here wrestling with your nigga ass in the wilderness. I just saved you. Think about that, Amiyatazar. Do you think Christ is going to put up with what Moses put up with?
No.
Hell no.
No.
Go ahead, Amiyatazar. Verse 3.
Ecclesiasticus 23 and verse 3. Lest mine ignorances increase and my sins.
Listen, if you don't be scourged, if you are spared your ignorances, meaning the things that you're doing that you don't know that's wrong, that you don't know that's out of order, they're going to increase. Now, you guys didn't have a steward that pacified and placated and wouldn't sting nobody. And look at what everything got lost. I'm gonna keep on throwing that. Why? Because those are the worst. See, people act like you're supposed to tiptoe around that type of shit. You ain't. Ain't nobody tiptoe around when David committed adultery with Bathsheba. Ain't nobody did. The spirit did not tiptoe around the fact that and how cunning and low he went when he tried to make it look. He tried to give Bathsheba's husband an opportunity to come in and sleep with her. This woman was just doing what she's told, huh? And when he was more loyal than his own captain, his own king, then David went to another all-time low. He had delivered this letter to Joab. Joab read the letter and said, the man that delivers you this letter, put him in the heat of the battle. So if that's not hidden about David, if what Solomon did is not hidden, why do I gotta hide or tiptoe around what the previous elder there did? What is that? When that's a more valuable lesson to you guys sitting there in San Antonio. It's far more valuable than what you're reading in Samuel's about David. Why? Because it's there. It's just what happened with David shows you what? The potential for error if you don't do the right thing. But now that you got that lesson, what's more valuable? You got the lesson, but now you got an opportunity to exercise it so you can appreciate the outcome, whether positive or negative. And that is what understanding is. When the scriptures say knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, understanding is an appreciation of the outcome of the decision that you've made. And how do you know you understand it? You can go and in any circumstance that arises, you can duplicate the outcome again. That's all it is too. That's how you know somebody understands it. If I was a math teacher or if I was sitting up there teaching Hebrew and I said, okay, now, I'll give you guys what a word is. Now, Elisha, come on up to the board and write this down. Then how would he show me he understood what I just showed him? How would he demonstrate his understanding of what the lesson was? He would come up and do it. Okay, well, now write down this word. And he would do that. Oh, shit, okay, write this word down. Well, write down this phrase. What is he doing? He's demonstrating that he understands. It's an appreciation through demonstrating what? The outcome, and you can duplicate it. It's like we do it in math all the time. We do it in basketball. The coach says, no, your form is off. You cannot. And then the once he shows you that right form and how you're supposed to, curve that hand and how the wrist is supposed to snap. And then you be shocked when your thing hit all net. Damn. Well, hold on, let me do it again. And then what? You get excited and you don't keep the form. And bang, hits the back of the rim, hits the front of the rim, hits either side of the rim. Said, no, come on now, take your time. I want you to, don't worry about speed. I want you to get the form right. Then you open the vase. I'm sorry. Again, you get what? You get that net. You're showing that you understand. Now you have to discipline yourself to maintain that form. But when you don't do it right, after all the lessons, y'all have been under coaches. When they get mad, sometimes they make you laugh and you can't laugh because now you're going to run in all them laps. They say some of the wildest abusive things. And you guys know he's mad as hell, but because when he gets like that, he's funny as hell. So you taking a lesson and you looking at your boys, but don't laugh because this nigga gonna have us running 3 miles after practice. That's how it be. We deal, listen what I'm saying, because we deal with that sort of, see, I say abuse, but we deal with that sort of treatment. We deal with that treatment. And we know what? That's a part of sports. That's what make you hard. You get to the point where the coach call you off. Listen, brother, he grabbed you by the face mask. Run. He'll tell you what offense to run or what defense and throw you in. And you go back. You'll be really grabbing. But you hurt my neck. You sit there with your eyes open with him grabbing your face mask, getting the notes, getting the orders, and then you run back in on the defense. Listen, 5-3-on-1, 5-3-on-1, ready, and you're ready to go. But when we come to the truth, Amayatazar, like I said, it's that nigga from the Wizard of Oz. You didn't have to scream at me.
Yeah.
You be up there reciting poems of courage. Remember that? I like that movie, man. I be watching them clips out. What makes the Hottentot so hot? What do they got that I ain't got? Right, talking about courage. For us, it's manliness, it's humility. Amayetazar, what verse was that? 3?
Verse 3.
Go ahead and read it.
Lest mine ignorances increase and my sins abound to my destruction.
Lest
and I
my
fall.
ignorances increase. We're going to end up having to read this one again because I see they frozen. Lest mine ignorances increase. Go ahead.
Lest mine ignorances increase and my sins abound to my destruction. And I fall before my adversaries. My enemy rejoice over me, whose hope is far from my mercy.
Sorry.
So
we talking to the Congress, we talking to the world now. You know, but it shows you that this is what prevents us from, and then when we deviate from it, guess what happened? We end up what? Destroying ourselves in the face of all of those that couldn't wait to see us fall. I can't tell you how many people when I got arrested was having a good time because and the cops themselves, they rejoiced. They didn't even take me to jail. Like they drove me around the park many times, paraded my ass. Back then they wasn't doing to us what they did to you when they had you on TV and all that shit. That's what they do to everybody now. They put you on TV and social media. Well, they hadn't gone. This was in 2001, so they hadn't had the social media wasn't up and became integrated into everybody's life. So what they did, they rolled me all around, and then every time it came time for me to have to deal with a hearing, well, they walked my ass from the jail to the exit because that's what on the other side of the gas station, that's where they did all of the booking and stuff. That was the courthouse.
Wow.
So they would just walk me from First Street on. They would walk me all through the center, and then like the Kai, wherever all the businesses is.
Oh my goodness!
Then they walk my ass straight up out of town, handcuffed and dirty ass clothes.
Wow.
Yeah,
just trying to shame you. My goodness.
But I understood that's what it was about. The Most High was asking me, "Are you really going to build out here?" That's what it was about. Are you really going to build out here? Do you really trust me? You know what I mean? And now that's why I didn't go nowhere. But my case didn't end until 2006 when I finally could get my paperwork. And the only reason why I could get my paperwork because of faith, I stayed, kept on working. And you saw the people we done taught. The most time it happened in 6 weeks. I got the case got thrown out completely. So I was able to get all of my permanent residency, and then all the things that come with citizenship got granted to me. But it was a 5 year time.
To think that I was with you for 3 years, I didn't even know you was going through that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why when you was going through, let me just say this, it is what it is. You never know. But the point was, you say that you never knew. Why do you say that? Because of how I conducted myself.
Yeah, there was you never.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you never showed anything like fear or stress or that there was a burden above or over you that you was going through a case. That's crazy. I can't believe that. Wow.
Brother, because I trusted the Most High. I ain't gonna lie. And that's why I said, people maybe they think that it's a disdainful or a disrespectful statement to make when I say Paul's experiences don't mean to me what mine do, but I don't mean it negatively. Paul's experiences and reading about it inspired me to stay the course.
Yeah.
They're very valuable. But what's more valuable to me, what let me know that the Most High was with me if I do the right thing, is what he delivered me from, not what he delivered Paul from. It's just Paul, I'm using him as an example. The Bible was used to what? To get me to lock in and obey so I could what? Be the benefit of a first-hand lesson, as opposed to a second-hand lesson left in the Bible.
Yeah.
That's what they don't get at. And so you got to go through them dark moments, them dark periods. That's what the brothers don't get. And had I not been dealt with harshly in my upbringing, I wouldn't have had the right type of mind. I would have been cowardly. I would have been fearful. If I hadn't obeyed, I wouldn't have walked and accompanied my teacher to see how the Most High blessed him in his sacrifice. When he was abandoned, when he was spoken evil of, right? When his women left him, everything that the Most High showed me, he showed me how to do it with him. And then he put me in a position where one day I would have to what? Manifest had I gotten those lessons. Would I follow those lessons or would I deviate? And I did not deviate. I made mistakes, did some shit that you get thrown in jail, prison or whatever. But when I got there, once I kind of got settled in, then I spent the rest of my time teaching and working out.
Mm.
And then when they let me out, I just had to wait and ride my case out. That's all. Shit.
And you know what? I love that because you're really breaking down what this life is about. You know, in a nutshell, you just broke it down there. Whereas I feel this generation now, this younger generation, they're being taught that, you know, it's about money and all these worldly trappings. You know, that's how you see that the Most High is with you.
A whole bunch of people being surrounded by 1,000 Israelites.
Exactly. You know, and that was never what this life is about. That's the world. You know, the world has now infiltrated, you know, Israel, and now the whole dynamic has changed. You know, people don't want to go through. It's not that they don't want to go through hardship. They don't know the dynamic. They really don't know what this life is about. You've got people just giving the wrong example. You know, let's say you get people posting stuff on Facebook of just looking all. Not saying that there's anything wrong, you know, in looking regal, but it's not.
Kings and shit, man. Listen, all of that is, I call it just what it is, photo ops.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care about you and your lavishly adorned wife and you and your kids. I care about your Howard Shai. Can you teach me how to get saved? You got on all these fringes, nigga. I don't into that shit. Christ ain't even into that.
Exactly.
My wedding, you know, but okay, fine. Okay, you know, call me what you want, but that shit means zero. As far as I'm concerned, that's tasteless for the knowledge and the experience that I have. That's a tasteless thing to do. Because why? Because it's completely contrary to what the apostles said they were. When you go read what the apostles suffered, when you go and read what we went through back in those times, that last thing we was trying to do was come out as the royal princes. Like I said, that's for weak ass niggas that want to worship their family and their women and want other people to do so. That's a person that's feeding what the scriptures say, feeding their own belly. Please, so listen, while we still on the thing, let's finish up verse 3, and you're going to finish up you're going to read all the way down to verse 5.
Okay. Ecclesiasticus chapter 23, verse 3. Lest mine ignorances increase, and my sins abound to my destruction, and I fall before mine adversaries, and mine enemy rejoice over me, whose hopes is far from thy mercy.
Hey, listen, and that's what happened to us. So he's saying, as a means of preventing this from happening to me, that's why he said lest, as a means of preventing me from undergoing this, who is going to be used to set scourges over my thoughts, right? Who shall set a watch over my mouth and a seal over my lips? That's what it's supposed to be, so that I don't end up destroying myself from having been spared from my ignorances. Continue.
Verse 4. O Lord, Father and power of my life, give me not a proud look, but turn away from thy servants always a haughty mind.
Now, this is cold because people don't know how the Most High honors that prayer. See, when we pray that, like I said, he's entreating the Heavenly Father. Oh Lord, Father and power of my life, give me not a proud look. How does the Most High keep you from having a proud look? By imposing humbling circumstances over your ass. That's how. He don't put something in your head that make you walk around looking what you think is humble. Humble is not looking all sad and shit. Humility is just a recognition of one's overwhelming and apparent insignificance. It's an acceptation after recognizing and then an embracing of the fact that we are nothing. This is not about us, but the Most High will almost make us look good if we just obey him and allow ourselves to be cleaned up and used as an instrument, cleaned up and used as a tool or a vessel. Then The carnal people look and be like, oh, you know what? But that ain't it. But we know it ain't us.
Exactly.
We know we're the least likely to succeed. We know that we're the least valuable. We know that we're the most expendable to anything that we've ever participated in. So when we pray for the Most High to give us not a haughty look, a proud, what does it say? A proud look. The Most High don't put this look on your face. That's talking about how you appear to the world. The Most High puts you in a circumstance where humility, humbling, and humiliating circumstances are imposed upon you. And to change that condition, to alter that condition, to alter the perception of what you're going through is beyond your control. And so you have to submit. That's how that's how he gives you not a proud look. The second half of that verse. But turn away from thy servants always a haughty mind. What is the mind of your thoughts, your heart, right? Your mind. That means he puts you in circumstances when you do say something, your foolishness is made manifest by the person who's scorching your thoughts. That's what keeps you from having a haughty mind. When you share your perspective is put into biblical perspective by the man over you or by the circle you're in, and you be sitting there feeling like a damn idiot, which is what you're supposed to feel like. Because had that not been done, you run around here thinking you done said something deep. That's how you get a haughty mind. You think you done dropped something on somebody. And some nigga that's even less in a worse capacity than yourself is telling, man, that was deep. No, nigga, that was stupid. And I'm gonna show you why. That's how it happens. But we don't, it's like when someone will say, Lord, give me the patience. So the Most High end up creating a circumstance where you need something. You really got to have it. Then he make you wait. That's what happened when you're sincere and you say, Lord, give me the patience. The Most High creates something where, you have to have some money to move out. I'm just trying to create any random circumstance. Then you have to wait. You say, Lord, teach me how to forgive. Because these niggas, right? The Most High have people, what? The Most High have people constantly offending you. Constantly what? Injuring you. Because the only way you can forgive is if you've been offended, is if you've been injured. That's how you forgive. And in order to get forgiveness inculcated into you to the point where it is now a quality of you, it is one of your character traits, you have to be offended with such frequency and repetition that you acquired the necessary reps in having to forgive people, because that's how we get anything. And then you want to be able to play the guitar, you got to pick it up and start, whoever your teacher is, he's going to tell you, repetition. I want you to go and I want you to play the major scale. I want you to come back, I want you to play C major scale, I want you to play it 100 times within a matter of a day. That means you can break it up into 25 times, and then every time you mess up, you got to start all over. You got to start the count over. That's how you do it. I don't give a shit what nobody say. That's why you got cats be putting the damn guitar behind their head and all over the place. They don't know it. A good musician, a good anything, exercises or practices until they get it right. But a perfectionist, a professional, they practice it until they can't get it wrong. And that's how the Most High, That's how the Most High inculcates forgiveness. We have to what? We have to be offended with such regularity that not only do we forgive it, but we expect and understand this is necessary. It ain't just the reps. Now you begin to understand why. Because without this, I can't master this thing called forgiveness. You don't get offended once or twice. And that's the problem. Niggas get offended once or twice, then they leave the truth. But you didn't know. That means they don't understand how the Bible works. They don't understand how the Most High changes us. He gives us the information that compels us to adhere to it. It motivates us. It constrains us to follow, right? It's path. Then the Most High puts the path in the way. In other words, he puts us through a circumstance that we have to exercise what we've been learning for however long we've been learning it. And until we have the opportunity to exercise that with repetition and such frequency as to get it without thinking twice, we won't get it. We'll always be thinking twice. Should I forget that nigga? That's what happens, But the reason the repetition is needed, not only to inculcate, but because now we get an appreciation of the outcome of letting these healing properties in us. We see that it's not just me that have to forgive. I have to forgive because that soul that is under construction by the men of the Most High, by the Spirit of the Most High, that soul that is under construction needs me to forgive him in order for him or her to continue in this path. If I don't continue, you understand? If I don't continue to forgive him, something's going to happen to me where I'm going to run that person away. He's going to mess up, she's going to mess up until they finally make their transformation. And why would I try to rush them through a process that the Most High have reserved the rest of their life for them? Think about that. Y'all back with me?
Shalom.
I hope y'all was listening, man.
Yeah, we were listening.
Okay. You know, y'all went out and got a drink real quick and came back, right? What the hell? Why this crew keep disappearing? First they all go. They freeze, right? Then they disappear, go out and get a drink and come back, be acting like they ain't did nothing. No, well, if you were listening, then you were following along.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just in the process of saying right now, listen, and this is also a part of being a servant, huh? If you're a servant, let's say we're trained servants, but now so many years from now, if we got so many years, don't look like we do. But so many years from now, there are going to be brothers and sisters that's going to come in behind you, and they're going to need your service as an example. You have to show them what it is, and they're going to be making mistakes and offending. And I was explaining to them, Yakuza, how can I expect for this person to develop in the period of time convenient for myself when the Most High have offered them what he offered me, a new life? And understanding that it takes a lifetime to build a new life, then that's how long they have to make that change. Now I'm sitting up here getting mad because I got to keep on forgiving him, but this person have all the time in the world to what? To get it right. Their biggest thing is stay here. Stay here where you can practice it. Stay here where you can practice this word and apply this word among like-minded people. You can't practice this word to what? To efficiency with those out in the world. They're going to abuse and use you. Right? They're going to what? They're not going to have an appreciation for the fact that you are working on yourself. Let's read that verse one last time, verse 4, and then we're going to read verse 5 and get back to chapter 10.
Ecclesiastes 23 and verse 4. O Lord, Father and power of my life, give me not a proud look, but turn away from thy servants always a haughty mind.
So that's how the Most High what? You praying to, because what you're saying is, Lord, please make me humble. The Most High, how does he give you, what it says, give me not a proud look. How does the Most High honor that prayer? By putting you in humbling and humiliating circumstances. Now you got to what? Because you don't come out, you can't be pride in that. You can't be prideful. The only way out of this one is not out of it, it's through it. The only way through this one is what? Is to conform to what its petition is, and that's that you be humble. It's imposed. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Turn away from me vain hopes and concupiscence.
Vain
and thou shalt
hopes. That means what? Hopes or expectations that are contrary to that of the Most High. You got brothers coming and talking about, yeah, man, you know, so they be in the truth, but trying to get into the rap game. Think about that. I mean, and we, this was, it's probably still going on like that now. A lot of these Israelite groups making all these damn rap videos and stuff. Man, please, that means then where do we get to be distinguished? What from the Christ in us? How through us is the Christ in us distinguished from the spirit of the world? Like the scripture that says, "Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world." Well, how is that manifest if you only doing everything that's appealing to the world?
Mm.
Yeah, that was the brothers' reasoning back then. They wanted to do rap videos with the truth to appeal to the people. Fuck them. I'm not trying to appeal to no nigga in the world. The scriptures say that Christ, the Most High, chose the foolishness of preaching. That's what it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 1. He knows that what? There's other ways that us Israelite men would prefer to be able to do it. But the Lord said he chose what? The foolishness of preaching. So when you come up here with a better idea of how to spread the gospel, man, why? But it's designed to what? To identify with the world. But we're not here to identify with the world so that people can listen. We're here to call out the ones who the Most High have touched, and we don't know who they are. They're out there just like us. They're predestinated, like it says in the scripture. So if he's in the rap and he's destined for the truth, the last thing I'm gonna do is rap. I'm gonna drop the truth.
Mm.
Because there's something in him that's gonna recognize it. Just because he's all into the rap music, I hate that shit. I ain't gonna lie. Like brothers feel that it's an effective way to try to identify with the people. Man, fuck the people in the world that ain't destined for this. All I have to do is, and listen, that might sound harsh, but hell, I say fuck them. The Most High gonna burn them. Which one is harsher?
Oh, they've gone again.
I know, I saw him already. He froze up. I'll be teasing him. They going out to get that drink. The lesson is rolling hard this evening.
For real.
Read verse 6. No. It's
Verse 5. Turn away from me vain hopes and concupiscence, and thou shalt hold him up that is desirous always to serve thee.
See that? That means what? Vain hopes, my expectations of doing things my way. Turn that away. So what does that mean? That means if the Most High honors that prayer, that means all of your expectations contrary to his own, contrary to the acquiescence of his will, the Most High is going to close them doors. And the problem is brothers, what? Brothers be trying to kick them doors down.
Yeah.
So then they don't yield. When the Most High show them, then they go another route.
Mm.
Because they know I'm supposed to do this through rap. But you're not. You're supposed to do this through what Christ said. You're supposed to do this through sacrifice. You're supposed to do this through loss. You're supposed to do this through the relinquishing of your own will. You're supposed to do this through servitude. That's what you're supposed to do this on some way that people recognize, so they're going to be more apt to listen because you're saying it and it's got this beat. Man, all of that, like I said, to hell with them. Christ is coming to burn them up with the enemy. Go ahead, read that verse one last time.
Ecclesiastes 23 and verse 5. Turn away from me vain hopes and concupiscence, and thou shalt hold.
That's what be drawing us out. That strong sexual lust, like you was describing to the brothers. That was concupiscence. And that's what young men operate off of now. The only problem is between when we was growing up, our concupiscence was directed toward women. These niggas today, his concupiscence is directed toward men.
Mm.
That's what Esau's crafting now.
Mm.
Go ahead. It says, and thou what? The second half?
And thou shalt hold him up that is desirous always to serve thee.
That means through us submitting to the Most High's conditions that are designed to what? To turn us away from our own expectation. We submit and adhere to and embrace the circumstances that what? That purge out of us the impulse, the desire to follow our strong sexual impulse. When we adhere to these things that come down from our teachers, that's why our teachers got to be doing it, not taking niggas to clubs.
Mm.
Think about that, huh?
Mm.
How are we going to get this uprooted out of us if our way of airing out and demonstrating and showing and exercising brotherhood is always at a damn club? It's having the opposite effect.
Yeah.
It's keeping us captive to concupiscence. It's keeping
Yeah.
us captive to our what? Our uncontrollable sexual lust and desire. Now, let's go back to chapter 10, because we was breaking down the difference in the stewardship before a war and Shamshwan and Dawiyat, and the stewardship of a war, Shamshwan and Dawiyat. And you're gonna start off in verse 1 again. And we'll end it up here. Hope them brothers be them come back. Actually, it's already time. Let me go. We're gonna chill out. We'll pick, because I don't, well, listen, I know we still on the air, so let's go on and finish it out. Chapter 10.
Okay. Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people. And they're back now.
All right, go ahead. We're back in.
Should we end it?
It's been a wild ride, y'all.
We caught it though.
Okay, good. We're back in chapter 10 now. Because like I said, I was giving you a perspective by showing you that you're supposed to be able to what? To examine the course of action that you're under and measure it by what came before you. That's what you're supposed to do. So that's what this shows us. Read verse 1 again. We're back in chapter 10 of Ecclesiastes in verse 1. Then we're going to finish it up after verse 4.
Ecclesiastes 10 and 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
So you will know that by the ordering, man. You'll know that by the discipline. You'll know that by how every element of this operation carries itself and fulfills its what? Its responsibilities. You'll know that by the development of each participant, of each member, and of their households. Go ahead.
Verse 2. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers.
And so that's why you had everything lost. Sloth. Literally, man, lustful, indisciplined, dishonest, selfish. That's what was being permeated. That's why the camp was being pulled in 2 or 3 different directions. Go ahead.
Verse 2, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein.
That means not just the men, but the women also. Right? Decadent, disrespectful, unruly, prideful, slothful, fearful, doubtful. Go ahead.
Verse 3, an unwise king destroyeth his people.
Stop. So listen, the Most High is telling you what sort of steward came before a war. Now, why does it say destroyeth his people? Because look, like I said, look at what was gained in the 3.5 years before him. And it was really 2.5 years. The first year I spent under my teacher who went astray. When I parted from that, we had another 2.5 years, and the Most High built us up in 2.5 years. Then came and the building was so strong. I'm not talking about the physical, but I'm talking about what was laid down in the spirit was so strong that it took 18 years to lose it all. But nevertheless, it was still lost. And that was destroyed. The men now are unruly. Let me say this, and they don't understand how delicate it is, because you have to take that verse that tells you in Proverbs, train up a child in the way that thou would have it go, and when it is older, it will not depart. But that's us in the spirit too. Whatever you lay down for a man, when he first come in,
yeah.
If you let the wrong thing settle in, he won't depart from that. That's why a lot of these guys that came up under Barnabas is all ruined now. That came up under these cats and under their counsel, under their influence. That's why they won't do more. They're ruined. And that's in the scriptures as well. Hold on. I think it's chapter 25. Right? I'll tell you the verse when I get there of Ecclesiastes still. It might be verse 7. Let me see. No, it's verse 3. Read this, Ecclesiastes chapter 25 and verse 3.
Ecclesiastes 25 and verse 3. If thou hast gathered nothing in thy youth, how canst thou find anything in thine age?
Yeah, if you didn't get shit in your formative years in this truth, you ain't getting it. I ain't coming to it. Now it doesn't say you can't. It just asks the question how, meaning what, with what difficulty, with what effort it will be required. So people they be misunderstanding that scripture when it says train up a child in the way that thou would have it go. That's not saying, it doesn't say train up the child right. It doesn't. You got it out?
No, it was I had a question. Is that the same thing in Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha 11:28? It says, judge none blessed before his death, for man shall be known in his children.
Yeah. But now listen, so right off the bat, what do we think, Right off the bat, we be thinking what? We be thinking children as in biological. But remember, in Timothy, in 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 1, what does it tell you about the elders? It says, entreat an elder as a father and the younger men as brothers. How many times do Paul refer to Timothy as what? His son in the faith, his son in the word. So in other words, once again, if thou hast gathered nothing in thy youth, how shalt thou gather anything in thine age? That means there are principles and practices and habits that have to be instilled. And let me say this, how is it instilled? Go to Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 12 and verse 11. Ecclesiastes, we coming back to chapter 10, we ain't forgot. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 11. Read that.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 11. The words of the wise are as golds.
Now stop. The words of the wise is talking about his lessons. A gold is a cattle prod. Back in the day, it just was a long stick with a sharp end that you drove the cattle with to keep them going in the direction that you wanted. Today, they use a little rod with an electrical charge. That's what a gold is, meaning it's a sharp instrument. The words of the wise are as golds and what else?
And as nails.
Now, you guys know what nails are. Go ahead.
And as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies.
A master of assembly is anybody that's building something that requires the use of nails. How are nails fastened? They're not fastened like a button into a sleeve or shirt. They're fastened by what? By a hammer. He's telling you how the words of the teachers come. The words of the wise are as golds, meaning one sharp instrument, and nails fastened by the masters of assembly, meaning hammered in. The lessons are why? Because we keep on messing up. And you've heard your parents, how many times I got hammer this into your head? Yes, Elisha got all these names and shit. Got me acting like your old ass grandfather now. Elijah, you.
Yeah, it's Proverbs 22 and 15. It says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him.
Now remember, with the children are us.
Yeah.
The children are grown-ass men. You see what I'm saying? So we trace it back. Chapter 25 and verse 3 said, if thou hast gathered nothing in thy youth, how shalt thou gather anything in thine age? That's what causes destruction. You have to start it right from a person's nativity in this truth. It has to be done right. It has to be hammered in. Yes, I finished up that verse 11, and it has to be one person. It has to be one way, and I'm going to show you that. Read that verse 11 again, Ecclesiastes chapter 12.
Just to quote the scripture you were saying about train up a child,
yeah,
just so they have it on video. Proverbs 22 and verse 6.
Read it.
Train up a child where he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
So it doesn't say train him right. It doesn't say train him wrong. It says train up a child in the way that thou would have it go. That means whichever way you train him, when he get old, he's not changing. That's what's consistent with, if thou hast gathered nothing in thy youth, how shalt thou gather anything in thine age? That's why brothers and sisters have to have the right examples from their nativity up until their development. It has to be consistent. You can't have Barnabas pulling one way, Aurora pulling another way, and Mashaba pulling the third way. So the Most High to remove the other two, and now you guys already see growth. You see progress, and you see that the only way you can get it done and maintain it and move beyond it is hard, consistent work. You can't do nothing. You can't do nothing laying up. You can't do nothing comfortable and convenient. That ain't the age that you're at. You guys are in the age of, you're at the mid of war. You're supposed to be hardened for what lies ahead. Okay, I'm a Yetazah. Now go back and read Ecclesiastes chapter, I want to finish this up. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 11 again in the Bible.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and 11. The words of the wise are as golds and nails fastened by the masters of assemblies.
That means they're sharp and painful. They're hammered in with force. Go ahead.
Which are given from one shepherd.
Which are given by how many shepherds?
One shepherd.
And that's why the Most High had y'all under one shepherd. Now you're under one other shepherd. If the Most High's will is that we build and we have time, the time is going to come when Shamsu ain't going to take this mantle. Simple and plain. Then you have to follow him. And he's going to have to lay it down. And you guys are going to have to be the force behind him that's going to whip the other men and sisters into order. That's what it is to be a servant. Now go backward, Yetazah, to 10 again and read verse 3. Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 and verse 3.
Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 10 and verse 3. An unwise king destroys his people.
And then listen, now why do we go through all those? Because when it says unwise, that means he has the knowledge. Remember, what is wisdom? Wisdom is the correct application of knowledge. What is foolishness? Foolishness is you know the same thing as the wise man, but you don't use it right. We learned that in the first 10 verses of Matthew 25 about the 10 verses. 5 of them wise, 5 of them foolish. They all had the same thing. 5 of them did the right thing with what they had. And the 5 that had the very same thing that the 5 wise did, they did something different. So when it says an unwise king destroys his people, it's because this person is what? He's got the same knowledge. He knows what to do, but he's using it wrong. He won't do the right thing. He's not instilling things in the people's nativity they carry with them. And once they've been in this truth for so many years, not having been held, not having been what? Obliged to fight their battles, not having been obliged to take down their own Goliath within themselves, they're no longer fit for anything. That's why I don't take much responsibility, I'm telling you. And the Most High don't expect us to have this knowledge only. Read on down, the final verse.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited.
That means what? They're going to be inhabited, they're going to grow, they're going to thrive, they're going to be provided for. Last verse 4.
Verse 4. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable.
And so if that's how he operates with the world, how much more his schools that are in the world? The power of the Lord, the power, like it says, of the earth, so the power of what? The dynamic of all of his congregation is in the hand of the Lord. And in due time, he sets up one that's profitable over it. That's been our consistent experience, me at least since 1988. It's just like when you read the book of the Kings and the Chronicles. You got 3 years of a righteous king that pleased the Most High. You got 12 years of a wicked one. You got another 15 years of a wicked one. You got 20 years of a righteous one. The Most High is giving every king, in other words, he's giving every steward, every servant, an opportunity to manifest and demonstrate of what sort he is. We'll continue what it is to abide in Christ. We're going to continue along the vein of servitude. We're here to serve the needs of one another. All right? So with that, I'm going to say shalom to you, brothers and sisters, and I'll be ready to see you a week from today.
Shalom.
Shalom, brothers.
Shalom.
I'll see you tomorrow.